Tonight, we have an artist, a producer, a DJ, a visionary, a toy enthusiast, a collector, a creator, a boy genius. Not sure if he's Mensa certified though, we'll find out. Mr. Polka Dot himself, Kwamé, my brother.
Yo.
Yeah.
I'm in the building.
Yeah.
I feel official right now.
I feel official right now. I ain't gonna front.
What's good, man?
What's up, Kwamé? How you doing, man?
I'm chilling, man. How are you?
Oh man, I'm fascinated. And I don't just mean by tonight, but tonight has definitely got me fascinated. The things that have been happening in my life over the last few weeks are fascinating. Life itself it's fascinating right now, man. It's a fascinating time in life.
You know something? I think I agree with you. And to add on to that, I think that a lot of people need to realize, and if they really, really looked at their scope of life and they looked at their personal scope and they really looked out, they will realize that all life, their whole life, every single day of their life is a fascinating thing. From the time you open your eyes, the TV show starts, you know what I'm saying? Or the movie begins, and even the most boring day, you can pick things out. If you really look right, you can pick the craziest things out of the most boring day. So I'm glad that you said that your life is fascinating. I think everybody needs to feel that way. And if we all felt that way, I think there would be a different vibe out there. So, yeah. And I'm not trying to be on one of these like,
oh no, please do. No, please do.
Dr. Sebi type.
No. Please do.
Yeah, but that's just my mindset.
No, you know what? Listen, I appreciate it because I think at this point in my life, if I'm not like communicating with like-minded people, I can't be around you. If I didn't think you were as fascinating as I feel, I wouldn't have asked. Seriously, I would not have asked. And I'm gonna say this to you. To be honest, is that from the first moment that I seen you step on the scene, I had that very same feeling. I was like, this dude is special. Like this dude is different. There's something about him that's even bigger than what he's doing at this very moment. But we're gonna get into that though. We're gonna get into that. But welcome, man. I really do appreciate you taking the time out to, sit with me and my family here. And as I started to talk about you being on the show, everybody's like, oh, I love Kwamé. I was like, okay. I'm like, yo, you might be one of the most liked people on the internet right now. That's how I'm feeling.
It's good to be liked.
It is good to be liked.
Sometimes it's good to be hated too. Because
sometimes
if you're hated, that means you're doing something.
Something. Yeah, you don't want people to. You don't want
some sort of energy that people are trying to fight against, and they just really can't fight against it. So they bring about hate. Like, I hate this guy. When you're ignored, that's when you have a problem.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you this.
I appreciate the light. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm gonna tell you this one funny thing. Like when I was thinking about us doing the show tonight, one of the things that kept crossing my mind is, I wonder where he's going to sit in the room. I'm wondering, like, what's the backdrop going to be like? I'm like, what am I going to see tonight? And lo and behold, you did not disappoint. This guy's got a Tron game sitting behind him. If I'm not mistaken, on the other side, let me get this right. Is that Voltron back there?
Yeah, that's a 2.5 foot tall Voltron back there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I got my man Animal from the Muppets right over here somewhere.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Okay. Oh, yeah. So we're going. You please, before this is over tonight, I need a tour of the room, man. I gotta get a tour of the room tonight before it's all said and done. Please.
Okay. This is just a small section. This is not even like. This is like my what do you call it? My posting section. I don't even have like the full like the full setup spans between here where I'm at in LA and New Jersey. I'm still stuff on the East Coast, but I need to put it all together and make just one big museum war room.
I was getting ready to say the same. I told Jermaine Dupri not too long. I said, "Yo, you have got to turn your studio into a museum." But same thing with you.
I know JD has some stuff too.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the plaques alone are just ridiculous, and in his studio, it's just they just flow, and we got them sitting on the floor in place. I'm like, yo. Isn't that like, Usher's, diamond plaque right there? Like, yeah, I got no space for it.
Exactly.
Crazy. Okay. So let's get into this, man. Let's we got some time, so let's talk about it. Let's get to the beginning. We'll get out, all the little bullshit. We get that out the way, and then we'll get into some of the good stuff.
Okay.
But let's talk about where you're from originally, where you grew up, and all of that kind of stuff.
I'm from Queens, New York. I'm from an area. You can never get me to stop talking about my neighborhood. I'm from this area called East Elmhurst, Corona. Right. And if anybody hasn't heard me talk about this or doesn't know, East Elmhurst and Corona are pretty much two separate neighborhoods, but joined together. And if anybody knows the New York City area, we are directly next to LaGuardia Airport. We're directly next to where the Mets place, where it used to be called Shea Stadium, now it's called Citi Field. Yep. And we're directly next to that area where the U.S. Open is. So there's a lot of things. And the dope thing about my neighborhood, and I don't want to ramble on about it. You can cut me off anytime you want.
Please, yeah.
But the cool thing about my neighborhood is all the people who are from the neighborhood and who have lived in the neighborhood. Yeah. Historically, it was a Jewish and Italian neighborhood back in the early 50s. And then after the Harlem Renaissance and everything, a lot of middle-class Black families started to move into this neighborhood. And a lot of artists started to move into the neighborhood. So we had, in Corona, we had Louis Armstrong. We had Ella Fitzgerald. Wow. We had Harry Belafonte. We had the baseball great Willie Mays. Martin Scorsese is from the neighborhood. And then as generations moved on, you had people like Madonna move into the neighborhood. And then that's like in the late 70s, early 80s when she moved to New York. But she was a squatter. She was living like in an abandoned church in the neighborhood. I was like, yo, what? Apartment, lady.
Shit. I didn't know that.
But then within my immediate area, I grew up on a street called 97th Street. So on my block, the one of the greatest things about my block is if you know your Black history, on my block, one block up from my house is the house that Malcolm X lived in and the house that got bombed, that he lived in with his family. Wow. So it's literally a 2-minute walk from my house.
Wow. That's history.
And then up the block, another great producer that you know, and I know Ron Amon-Ra Lawrence from Bad Boy Hitman.
Absolutely.
Hitmaker fame. He lived up the block.
Wow.
You go 2 blocks back to 93rd Street, you have Kid from Kid and Play. You have 1 block back on 96th Street, you have Eric B.
Wow.
4 blocks up, you have Play from Kid and Play. Then you have Herbie Lovebug. A couple of blocks this way is Cool G Rap. And you have Salt and Pepper in the neighborhood. It was everybody was there at one time.
That's crazy.
And to me, the neighborhood, and it's so funny because the neighborhood now is nothing like that. The neighborhood now is Indian, Korean, Hispanic. That's the beauty of New York. It always changes. Nothing stays the same. So that's where I'm from, East Elmhurst, Corona, Queens. All my Queens people.
Shout out. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. Yeah. So what was like let me ask you, what high school did you go to?
Okay. What high schools did I go to?
Oh, okay. Wait.
I was an interesting kid.
Were you a troubled child?
Somewhat.
Oh, okay.
I was a weird kid. Well, I don't know if I was a troubled child, but I went to the High School of Art and Design. I was I was an art student. I was supposed to go to the High School of Performing Arts,
Right.
and I studied. I was a drummer, so I auditioned to go into the High School of Performing Arts, which is like the Fame School,
Right. Yeah.
to play drums. I didn't get in for drums. I got in for art. But my 14-year-old mind was just like, if I'm not drumming, I'm not going. So I skipped that school, which I kind of regret. But my brother ended up getting into that school.
Okay.
And then I ended up going into the art school of New York, High School of Art and Design, and I went in for illustration. And then that was another magical place, because in my school, you had Pharoah Monch, you had Sticky Fingers, you had, Pharoah Monch's partner, they had a crew called the Organized Confusion. So Prince Poe and Pharoah Monch was in Sticky Fingers. You had the designer Marc Jacobs. You had the designer Mark Echo. There was a lot of Fabulous was there. Prodigy was in there. There was a lot of people in my school. So all in different grades and stuff.
Right.
But I ended up going to the High School of Art and Design. And during that time, I went there for the 9th grade. I went there the 10th grade. And then my mother and father divorced, and my father was getting remarried. So he moved me out to Inglewood, New Jersey. So while they were living in Inglewood, I was just transferring back and forth to Inglewood, and I got in a little bit of trouble in art and design. I ain't gonna tell y'all what the trouble is.
No, we want to know actually. No, we want to know actually. Yeah, tell us about it.
I was one of these teenagers that didn't understand the effects, or didn't acknowledge the effects of divorce. And I don't want to sound like one of these like after school special kids, but when you grow up in a nuclear family, it was me, my little brother, and my mother and father.
Yeah. And
it went from that to a split.
Right.
And you didn't necessarily, as kids, that adults were very, very great at shielding kids from adult shit.
As hell.
So I'm now getting into high school, and I'm lashing out.
Right.
And not understanding how I'm lashing out. So it's like, this is 80s, this is 1987, 88 New York. Now, if anybody understands 1987, 1988 New York, it is hell on earth. It is the height of crack era.
Decepticons.
The Deceps, all of this stuff. Yeah. And I was in the middle of it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I ran with this one or ran with that one, but I knew them all.
Right. And you had to do what you had to do to survive also.
And I think as a teenager, anybody who knows me knows that I am the most zen, peaceful, cool dude you ever know. Right. But as a teenager during that time, I think I had a lot of pent up anger in me, and I lashed out a lot.
Right.
And I was busting people's asses. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Right.
And I was not pointed in the right direction.
Right.
And I think I got into the situation when I was in school, and I'm like, running up on kids and doing the craziness, and being involved with other kids, mainly being involved with other kids doing crazy stuff. And I didn't get kicked out of school. But my father was like, you know what? We taking you out.
Right.
Because you are now, because none of my circle wasn't the quote unquote good Queens kids anymore. It was the Harlem kids, it was the Bronx kids, it was the Brooklyn kids. And those are the people that I was rolling with. And we were all just on some, I don't know, it was like the tone of that late 80s was, you gotta be on some hard
you
stuff.
Gotta be,
you know what I'm saying?
You gotta be fly as hell, but you gotta be on some.
Yeah.
And I think we taking advantage of you chumps. That's what it was.
Like New York was a shooting range, man. And I think my father was smart enough. Both of my parents were smart enough to know, like, he's not even that kind of kid.
Right.
We're taking him out of that environment.
Right. Let's take control of the situation.
Yeah. So let's remove him from the situation.
Right.
And put him in another super a suburban situation of Englewood, New Jersey.
Right.
So now I'm in Englewood, New Jersey, and I go to a school called Dwight Morrow in New Jersey.
That's right.
And my friend base turns into almost the same thing as far as creative wise. Like Redhead Kingpin was my best friend. We went to high school together.
Shout out to Red.
Yeah, or Big Bub from today. He went to the high school. My man Rondo, who was Sylvia Robinson's son, he went to the high school. And then, all these people, my man Corey Blacksmith, he, who's Dave Chappelle's manager now, we were all in the school together, and I ended up getting almost into the same type of trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
So it just made me understand that, you could take a kid out of an environment, but if a child keeps pursuing another type of environment, things could happen.
Yeah, and, for sure.
I didn't get into as much trouble as I could have gotten into or should have gotten into, but and music saved that.
Right.
Honestly, because during that, and that can go into another question, but that's when the contracts and the record deal started kicking in, and it literally saved my life.
Right.
No bullshit. I don't know other way to say it.
Right.
But it saved me from turning into, I don't know, one of the dudes in Paid in Full or something.
Let me ask you this though.
Quambo instead of Alpo.
Do you think that, like, what part of you, right, that allowed yourself to, go down that road, did you carry over into your music? Did you?
I don't think anything that carried over. You know what it was about going down what people would consider the wrong road or dangerous roads or whatever you want to call it?
Mm-hmm.
It was never me wanting to be like anybody in that world, but it was me as a writer wanting as many experiences as possible.
Mm. Almost like the curiosity. The curiosity of it all as well, right?
Like, say, for example, if I'm a rapper and I'm going to rhyme, and we're in crack era, and I'm going to rhyme about crack, just say, for example, I know a whole lot of crack dealers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or if I'm going to rhyme about stick-up kids, I got a whole lot of stick-up friends. But at the same time, I'm a nerd, I'm a geek, and I got a whole bunch of geek genius friends as well.
Right.
And anybody that knows me from my past always knew that I am a friend magnet. I have friends from all walks of life, all ethnicities, all religions, all races, and
all criminal backgrounds.
Same
here.
Seriously.
Yeah, same here.
And it wasn't me partaking in any of it.
Right.
But it was me observing
it all. Yeah.
And writing it and potentially writing it.
Yeah.
Or I never wanted to be, how about this? I never want to be the guy in the room that doesn't know what anybody's talking about at any given point in time.
Yeah.
So if there's criminal talk, I can talk with you. If there's genius talk, I can talk with you. Yeah. We can talk about the universe. Right. We can talk about how who the Genovese family, how they got down in Rosedale, Queens. Right. we can talk about things like that.
Yeah.
And that was what fascinated me as a kid.
Wow, you gave us a lot right there. That was a lot. And we appreciate you, being transparent, because that's important.
Transparent, but never incriminating.
Never incriminating. Never incriminating. But it helps to, really paint a picture, a real picture, right? of you and your journey, and I think that that's important.
Yeah.
You know, we don't, you know, of course there's more than just the polka dots to this guy, and it has to be, because you really were a visionary, and you had to have used all those experiences, everything you absorbed, whether it was your books, whether it was, you know, fashion and, you know, music and those sorts of things. You know, you could only have absorbed that to be able to do what you've gone on to do, to be honest with you, right? So I have one other question related to that time, and then we'll move on from that. But who were like some of your early music influences at that point? Because your style was very, you know,
my musical influence is funny. Like, I think that my musical influences probably helped me, and in a lot of ways helped me, and I think in a lot of ways hurt me. And because I was, still am, heavily influenced by a myriad of different artists. So 14, 15, 16-year-old me on the hip hop side, heavily influenced by Slick Rick and Dana Dane.
Yeah.
You know, that was a heavy influence. And Dana could tell you I was the little 14-year-old kid who's following him around everywhere.
Right.
Heavily influenced by Cool G Rap, heavily influenced by Kane and Rakim. Mm-hmm. So if you take Slick Rick, Dana Dane, Cool G Rap, Kane, Rakim, and you put them all into a pot, that's only a portion. Mm-hmm. Then I'm heavily influenced by, and I'm staying on the hip hop side right now, but you know, like a record like world famous Supreme Team, Hey DJ, and Buffalo Girls. Out of all the records that were out, those records changed my life. Important. And the reason why they changed my life was because I'm hearing musicality in this production.
Yeah.
You know, I'm hearing things like, you know, whether it's tapes from a radio show and sample bits and, you know, piano playing and stuff like that. And I'm like, yo, you're mixing these melodies and you're making it hip hop, as opposed to like Run DMC where it's just drum and bass, or just drum and rhymes. You know, that was great to me, and I was heavily influenced by that. But that world famous Supreme Team sound, or just how Houdini did it, and a lot of that musicality was that Larry Smith sound was amazing to me. Yeah. Without really knowing, like, oh, that's Larry Smith or whatever. Yeah. It was just amazing to hear that. But then you know, Kraftwerk was a super big influence, just the electronic side of it. But for real, Prince, number one is Prince.
Wow.
Number 1.5 is Stevie Wonder. Or number 1 and 1 is Prince and Stevie Wonder. Right. And more than anything. And also, I just saw my man Keith Shockley up there, the Bomb Squad. Super influenced me. Because the Bomb Squad production, when I was just like examining producers and examining stuff.
Yeah.
That's like the ultimate version of the Rubik's Cube to me.
Science, man. Science. It felt like pure science,
it was like
man.
pure astrophysics.
Yeah.
To this second.
Quantum.
Yeah, man. Listening to that, I'm just like, yo.
Like how?
So, you know, and it's like, and that was my thing, like trying to decipher things. But brothers like Prince and Prince lineage, like Morris Day in Time and stuff like that, that was an extreme influence, because what Prince was doing was things that I was always dreaming about doing. Like knowing that instead of him buying this mansion and all these cars and doing the rock star thing, this dude built Paisley Park and made like this all-encompassing place to do everything. And in my brain, I'm like, that's like a musical Batcave.
Yeah. And he lived. I mean, it was his home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing to me. I've never, nothing greater. Maybe Dolly Parton's amusement park, Dollywood. But
or Neverland.
I'm like,
Neverland.
I've never seen
Neverland. Maybe
second. Yeah, I've never seen anything greater than that.
Yeah. I agree.
And reading, I was a liner note reader. So for me as a kid, I'm reading produced, composed, arranged, performed, written by Stevie Wonder, Prince. So in my brain, that's what I had to do.
Right.
You know, because some of the rappers I didn't know, I didn't know people's real names like that all the time. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know when I see the writers things, I'm like,
who was that?
A lot of rap records, it's just a bunch of random names.
Right.
So if I'm looking at Prince and I'm looking at Stevie Wonder, I see Prince and I see Stevie Wonder. 100%. And I'm like, I gotta do that.
Right.
That's what I have to do. So and like I said, chasing that, I didn't want to wear no ass out pants or anything like that.
No heels.
No heels.
No heels.
But
the balls that he had to do it. I mean, I wouldn't mind having those.
It's artistic freedom.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Prince
at its finest,
and Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder were like, if I felt like a slave, I was looking at free black men,
right?
Free men that were free thinking, free moving, and free imagining the things that they were doing.
Yeah.
So I was like, why can't I do that and rap? Why can't I be free to just have all this type of creativity and at the same time be a rapper?
Right.
And 99.9% of the industry told me, no, you cannot do that. And as I was trying to drop little gems, I have record label heads, I have A&R, I have managers, I have, all the things. Rap don't do that. You can't, like, I remember, like, when I made my second album, I was like, okay, I want to do a concept album. From beginning to end, this is a story, and we're going to make a video, like a short movie, like a Moonwalker, but for rap.
Yeah.
And the head of my label was like, you're not Michael Jackson. You can't do that. That's only Michael Jackson can do that.
Who was that? Was that Marlon Bob at the time? Like, who was that?
No, Sylvia Rome.
Oh, Sylvia. So, okay, so let's go back a little bit. Because I want to talk about how all that happened, right? So how does the kid who's in New Jersey get his first deal, right?
Okay, so that was a funny thing. So I'm in Inglewood, and I'm sneaking, telling my father I'm going to, say, Redhead's house, or I'm going to a girl's house or whatever, and I'm sneaking to New York, sneaking back to Queens. And that's a long sneak, by the way. And
that is a long sneak.
and on the weekends, I don't know how to tell this story without sounding crazy.
Really? You're a creator. It's okay.
But I used to work on the weekends. I used to work in Flatlands, Brooklyn, at an auto glass place, which was a front for the mob.
Okay.
Now, I used to work at this mob front. I saw all sorts of shit, by the way.
Okay. All right.
And so
that's easy to digest.
When I was in Brooklyn, working there at the auto glass place, I would then go into Queens and work on music. Or when I was, had my downtime, I would go into Queens and work on music.
Okay.
And the first thing that I did, there was a music that was called the Music Building in Jamaica, Queens. And in this music building, there was a producer by the name of Paul C. And Paul C is probably one of the most underrated hip hop producers of all time. You know, he produced a lot of stuff. He did like Super Lover C, Casanova Rudd.
Right.
He did so much stuff. He taught Large Professor how to be a producer. He was
Wow.
He was very dope. His accomplishments are crazy, but he was young. He had this studio, and I didn't know that it was him. That was the funny thing. I knew his work, but didn't know this was him.
Right.
And I was directed to go to this studio, and he gave me studio time on Christmas Eve, or actually Christmas morning, 1987, from midnight to 8 o'clock in the morning. And that was the time that I knew that I needed to take that time and actually zone in. And that's where I recorded most of my first album.
Wait, so who was making that music at that time?
I did 6 songs in 8 hours, and that was the bulk of my first album, Boy Genius.
You were creating all of this music at this time?
Yeah.
So you had to learn how to work.
I knew what I wanted in my head. I had all the records I wanted to sample. So I came in there. I was like, I didn't even know how to use it. It wasn't even an SP1200 at the time. It was just the SP12. Right. And Paul set everything, all the samples up for me. And he was like, okay, this is how you record. I was like, all right, now get out the room. And I made the rhythm. I made, other songs. And
wow.
I made these records, and I had the demo. And unfortunately, Paul was only 24. He got murdered in that studio the next year, like within that next year, so he never got to see the fruits of his labor or a lot of the things that he did.
Right.
And shout out to Paul C's family. So I take that demo of what is supposed to be the Boy Genius, and I hand it to Herbie Lovebug. But I also play it for my father. My father had a friend, Mr. DaCosta, and his wife was head of marketing at Sony. So my father, I didn't know this, my father handed the demo to Mrs. DaCosta, and she was working at Sony. And then I'm playing the demo in school, and Rondo Robinson, Sylvia Robinson's son, is like, yo, I want you to meet my mom.
Right.
So we'll start with that. So I'm like, who's your mom? He's like, nah, you're going to appreciate this.
Right.
So we go to his house, which is like some mini mansion. Inglewood, New Jersey. I'm seeing the Magnum PI Ferrari. on bricks. Rolls Royce. I'm like, what the hell? What's your mom do?
Right. Yeah.
Maid answers the door. I'm like, the hell is this? And it's like, my mom, Sylvia Robinson. I know exactly who Sylvia Robinson was.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, word? I'm like sitting next to you in geography class, joking all day. I didn't know that was your mom. She was like, yeah, man. He was like, yo, my mom heard the tape you let me hold, man. She wants to sign you. I was like, word? So the moms comes down. I'm talking to Miss Robinson, and she hands me a contract right then and there. And Redhead Kingpin was with me at the meeting, and he was like, yeah, I already signed. She signed me too. And I'm like, oh, where are we going to be on the same label? Oh, man, it's going to be crazy. So it was me, Redhead Kingpin, and a group called The New Style. And if anybody knows, The New Style turned out to be Naughty by Nature.
Naughty by Nature, that's right.
We were the only 3 artists that were going to be on this new version of Sugar Hill Records called Bon Ami. And Bon Ami Records.
Bon Ami.
And the contract was 1.5 pages.
I was going to ask you, any contract that you can hand someone right on the spot is a scary contract.
Yo, I felt like she was upstairs typing that joint when I was downstairs.
Oh, he's there? He's there? Give me 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Oh, man.
So she brings the contract down, and I'm hyped.
Right.
But I don't say nothing to my parents, nothing. And then at the same time, Herbie calls me, and he was like, yo, Epic Records is interested. I'm going to get the contract. I'm like, oh, word. And then he calls me again. He said, yo, Atlantic Records is interested. I'm going to get a contract. I never saw the Epic Records contract. I think I saw a deal memo.
Right.
And for anybody who doesn't know what a deal memo is, it's just like a
promissory note almost. Yeah, So and also let me ask you. So by this time, Salt and Pepper's already popping.
Yeah,
Kid and Play's already popping.
He's super popping. Everybody's like all the way popping.
Yeah, Herbie's hot. Everything is okay. Got it.
Like, he's like the hottest dude out.
Yeah.
And so I get the Atlantic record contract, and this contract was like 400 pages. You know, the thick standard.
Absolutely.
Big contract.
I own it for life.
So I got the 2-page. Mm-hmm. I got the 300-page, and then I get a call for Mr. Costa to come to Sony. So I go up to Sony, and they have a memo there too. I get a memo from Sony. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, they never called my father. I don't know how I got
it directly.
No. You know what? Because back in the days, you didn't have cell phones or anything like that.
Right.
So I had a line. You know, everybody, you have a phone line in your bedroom type.
Yeah.
So they had that number, and I was like, answer, hello. Trying to be cool, thinking it's a girl.
And you didn't have no attorney or anything at this point.
Nothing.
Yeah. Did you even know?
That's the funny part.
Okay.
That's the funny part. So I'm going to school. I'm in 10th grade or 11th grade now. Got this backpack with 3 contracts in it. And I'm like, I got to make a decision. Herbie's on my neck.
This is crazy.
Miss Robinson's on my neck. Mr. Costa's on my neck. Mm-hmm. I got to tell my pops. So, my father now is in a new relationship. He's divorced from my mother. He's divorcing my mother.
Right.
Everybody thinks this whole rap thing is just, a fad. Mm-hmm. But the great thing about my parents is they always supported me no matter what.
Right.
They may not have believed that it could be a career in hip hop or a career in rap, but they supported it in any way they possibly could.
Yeah.
So I tell my father, because that's who I was living with, and he gets the divorce attorney to look over the contract. So she's doing the divorce and she's doing
that's crazy.
So
whoa.
I'm like, all right, let's go with Atlantic. I met with Miss Roan and
she was the only black executive out of all the labels that you went to, other than Sylvia.
A black executive as well, but I can't remember her name.
So you had Sylvia Robinson and you had Sylvia. All right, so you had
there's 2 Sylvias.
You had 2 Sylvias. Yeah, 2 of the biggest black women in the game at that point.
Exactly.
So
exactly. I'm just putting that together in my brain right now. Yeah. So I meet with Sylvia Roan, mm-hmm. and the funny thing, this is the funny thing. I bring my godfather with me to the meeting. Rest his soul. And so his name is Kenny. So I walk in the office, and Sylvia looks up. She goes, "Hi, Kenny." And Kenny's like, "Hello, Sylvia." And I'm like, "Oh, what's going on here? Like, what's this?"
Really? Some Black Harlem Renaissance shit going on?
Yeah, what's happening?
Really?
Like,
okay.
No, Sylvia's good people, I'm telling you. So he talked me into it.
We know what that meant.
Yeah. So he talked me into it, and if y'all don't understand, you don't understand how large, how influential and large these people that I'm talking about are.
They're buildings alone.
Gods of the music industry, but at this point, Sylvia's making her way up. Everybody's, and so she reminded me like of my mom or something. All the A&Rs and everything, they were like parents. They weren't anybody you can relate
to at all. Correct.
So they treated me like a little kid, and then once I did sign. But my parents had to sign with Atlantic because I was underage. Mm-hmm. I was 16. And so, I had to go through the whole parent, underage court, family court mess to sign a record deal. Yeah. But that was the one, that was funny. That was probably like one of the last times I saw my parents together. As being a collective. And that kind of like took me all the way off of whatever bullshit I was on as a teenager. it was all the way off at that point.
Right. Wow.
And so the journey began with that signing at Atlantic.
Wow. So, how long after does your first single come out? And which was The Rhythm, right? The Rhythm was the first single.
I want to say this was in the fall of '88 that all these meetings and signings happened.
Mm-hmm.
And January 31st was the day that everything came out.
Right.
Of January 31st of '89. So the first single was a record called The Man We All Know and Love.
Oh, The Man We All Know and Love, that's right.
And the B-side was The Rhythm. And it was weird because making the album, I wasn't focused. I didn't have the understanding of how to make a single.
Radio record, right.
And a radio record. I didn't know none of that shit, man. Yeah. I was just like, I was a lyrical dude. I was a storyteller.
Yeah.
And I know that it was just me in the studio by myself. Herbie would come in and, like fact check and then bounce. And so I'm sitting waiting for Herbie Lovebug to make this massive radio record for me. And it never happened.
Never.
So I have this album, The Boy Genius. And I had everybody's like, so what's going to be the first single? And I'm like, I don't even know, man. I can't. And it was just like a whole conglomerate. Everybody sat down and just decided on The Man We All Know and Love and The Rhythm. And the funny thing is with The Man We All Know and Love, that was like a parody record to me. I was just joking around like Slick Rick and Dana Dane. I used a different voice. I sped my voice up. It was like a character of me. It wasn't supposed to be me.
Right.
But that was the first record that they was going to run with. And so January 31st, 1989, they dropped the album and the single at the same time.
They did?
Yeah,
wow.
Everything just came out the first day. So I was like, all right, I'm doomed. They just dropping records out.
You felt like you were doomed at that point?
When I saw the album, I saw the final pressing, it was like produced by Herbie Lovebug. And I'm like, oh man, he ain't do shit.
Right.
But I understood what the science was behind it and everything.
Yeah, that's
so
part of the marketing, right?
Yeah.
And question, I mean, because you didn't do a production deal, you didn't actually sign to Herbie, right?
So I did. And that was the crazy thing. I signed a production / management deal. So it was like I signed to Atlantic, and it was weird. It was like half me, half his production company. But then in the management contract, there was clauses like, there was clauses of being a producer and producing under the production company.
Right.
With half of my publishing going over there.
That's what we call bullshit. That's what we called back in the day. We call that bullshit back in the day. We call it bullshit today too.
15, it was.
It was your way in. It was
like, hey man, either I get in with the key or I get in through the window or I'm dropping in through the roof. I'm getting in this shit. And it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah. That's funny. Jermaine just put the head blown emoji up. Shout out to JD.
JD, what up, kid?
Wow. Okay. And so you're in school at this time, right?
Yeah. That's a whole nother funny.
Yeah. Like, how does that? Because things are starting to heat up. People know who you are.
No. So before people know who I am, I'm in. So now my father decides. My family has land in Virginia, in Suffolk, Virginia. So my father decides we're moving to Suffolk on this farm.
After you signed a deal?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
On a 90-acre farm in Suffolk, Virginia.
Wow.
And I'm like, nah, I ain't doing it.
Right.
As much as I'm as close, my father's no longer here, but I am the spitting image of my father.
I was going to say
in everything.
Your energy seems like you and him were close.
Yeah, and so when he made that move, I couldn't picture me not being around my pops. But I was like, nah, you ain't. there's no way you put me on a farm and I'm just signing this deal. I'm about to be a rapper.
Right.
Be on a farm. Right. There was no Southern rap back then.
Right.
So,
and you just got a check too, I'm assuming. You got a little advance, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
My little thing.
So you feeling like you independent now? Like you're like, yo, all right, Dad. I'm like,
I'm feeling very confused, to be honest with you. I'm like, what is happening here? So, it was like an immediate thing.
Right.
Like, say, for example, Friday the deal is signed, and then the next Wednesday we're moving to Virginia, and by the next Monday a U-Haul truck is in front of the crib.
Shit.
And I remember, like, there's like an episode of the Wonder Years or something. Everybody gets into the U-Haul truck, and I walk the other way. I'm like, I'm out. I literally just walked to the bus stop. I'm like, I'm out. So all my stuff is in the truck. All my stuff is going to Virginia. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. Wow. And I go back to Queens. And now I'm in Southside Jamaica, Queens with my mom. My mother's living with my aunt, my great aunt, and we're in Southside Jamaica, Queens.
Wow.
And we're in a very interesting neighborhood in Southside.
Okay.
Anybody knows anything about Queens and Southside Jamaica? I live like right behind Baisley Projects, and Baisley Projects was like war zone. This is still crack era New York, so it was war zone out there.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm living with my mom and my aunt in these. No, I'm not living in Baisley. I'm living around Baisley.
Right.
I'm in the house, and so now I have to go to school in Queens, and I'm going to the school called Forest Hills. I'm in Forest Hills, Queens.
Know it well.
And so this is high school, number 3. And I'm in Forest Hills. I don't know nobody.
Signed, got a deal. Got a deal. Records out.
Got a deal, but I'm not out yet.
Okay.
I got my money.
Right, you get you.
So I'm showing up to high school with rope chains as big as baby arms.
Oh my God.
Medallions. I had on my stuff. I had on Herbie's chains. I had this bracelet. I looked like a half rapper, half Jamaican dancehall artist. I had a bracelet that was like from here to here, looking like, how Ghostface had that big bird?
Yeah, Shabba Ranks also. Shabba had the joint on his wrist too. Shabba had the big joint too. Like, I seen it. Absolutely.
I was walking around school like an idiot with all this stuff on, knowing that's not even me.
Right.
But I'm a rapper, and y'all gonna know it. So I'm wearing full-length leather trench coats and leather pants.
You walking with a pistol? You walking with a pistol? Tell the truth. You walking with a pistol? Tell the truth.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Keep it real. Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
For no reason.
Well, now listen. You was walking around extra cocky. You
reason.
You had to protect Herbie shit. Yeah.
I'm trying to do an interview, and my ladies in here going, what? Will you let me do my interview? You trying to
hilarious. Uh-oh. She's gonna watch this one back. She's gonna be like, nigga, what? Go ahead.
I'm walking around in Queens like Nino Brown for no reason.
Right.
And I remember going to school, and the school had a security guard, and he pulled me to the side and was like, yo, I just got to let you know, the school is very concerned with your appearance. And they have launched an investigation, and they think that you're selling drugs within the school.
Okay. Sounds about right.
You need to watch yourself. There is a detective following you around the school. I do not know what he or she looks like.
21 Jump Street up in this house.
There's 21 Jump Street. Holly Robinson and Johnny Depp is in the building. So I'm like,
all because of you.
We're gonna clear this up right now. Mind you, I'm not, and this is something I really stress to people.
Mm.
Know yourself, know who you are, and be in your personal space. Do not try to be or portray yourself as anybody else. And I was going through that as a teenager because I'm thinking, this is what I had to do to be accepted as a rapper.
Yeah, you were looking for your identity. You were trying to. Yeah.
So I go to I leave the gun at home. I go to the principal's office, and the album before, like when you get it on like computer, you get a printout of, a JPEG of everything. But I had like this rollout.
Oh, the jacket.
Of how the album was supposed to look.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and I had an actual poster. I showed them the poster. I showed them the cassette rollout. I showed them the album rollout, and I said, I believe that you guys think that I'm selling drugs. I'm not. I'm a recording artist. Wow. My record actually came out at this point. Mm-hmm. My record is out. The album's about to come out. Because I didn't have the physical albums yet, so I had the proofs. I said it's coming out in January. This is like December, and I am slated to go on a tour, and I would like to do a work-study program where I can finish out my school and also be a rapper.
Now you're doing all of this on your own. This is you talking to the principal. Your mother's not there.
No parent. My mother would have found out I was doing this shit. I would have died on the school steps. So the principal looks at me, and he was like, "So if you a rapper, and you have all this money, and you have all these chains and stuff, I heard you have a nice car outside. Why don't you just drop out and be a rapper?" And I was like, so you're telling me you don't think that I should continue my education?
Wow.
It's not like I'm flunking.
Right.
So what are we saying here? He said, what we're saying here is you need to just be a rapper. If that's what you are, you want to be Mr. Rapper.
Wow.
I don't want you walking through my halls looking like this.
Wow.
And you need to figure it out.
That's some shit.
So I was like, if I tell my mother this, the school will burn down. Like my mom didn't play. Like all the creative stuff, I let my father deal with.
Right.
But all the like academic stuff and real life stuff, my mother dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
If I would have let my mother know this form of racism that I'm dealing with right now, it would have been like all hell breaks loose. So I was like, I'm not telling her nothing.
Right.
So the fat rope chain stopped that day.
Right.
But what I did was I went to my management and I let them know what happened.
Right.
And the person that was assigned to me, actually was part of the head of management, was my man JP
Edmonds.
JP Edmonds.
Absolutely. Good brother.
And I told JP, and he was like, well, Spinderella just went through the same thing. Spin might be 1 or 2 years older than me, but she was still in high school as well.
Right.
And he was like, went through the same thing. So they sent her to this school in Brooklyn, which is called a 600 school. Now, for those who don't know what a 600 school is, 600 school is the school.
First of all, it's got a number, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, it's got a big number, okay? It ain't PS. It's just 600. Not much is going to come good from that, okay? Continue.
A 600 school is a school for the 22-year-old seniors, the pregnant teenagers.
Right.
The kids that get suspended every 4 days. Not even the special ed kids, the kids that are too special for special ed. It was that kind of school. And they suggested that that's where Spin was going, so you should go there too.
Right.
I'm like, what? Now, mind you, New York is known.
What?
New York is the entertainment capital of the world. So there are actual high schools for entertaining kids.
Absolutely.
Nobody had the brains to put us in. There was a school called PPAS, Professional Children's School. Like Macaulay Culkin was there, Malcolm Jamal Warner was there. All these people were there at this time.
Right.
Can we go to this school?
Right.
No, we had to go to the 600 school.
And you're doing nothing. You're not hustling. You're not selling drugs. You ain't robbed nobody yet. They're like, you're doomed because you're a rapper. Yeah. Your life is over, basically.
Now, mind you, anybody knows me. I'm not the biggest framed guy in the world. I'm all but 5'7" and skinny as hell. And I go to this school and I have this big ass bodyguard that looks like the Incredible Hulk going to school with me. And so we pull up at the school. I have this all white drop top.
Oh my God.
And my little ass gets out the drop top, and then the whole drop top dips in there. My security guard gets out the drop top. Shouts to my man Heavy. I don't know where you are in the world, brother, but those were the days. And me and Heavy was walking through the hall looking like a cartoon, man, because I'm full-blown Kwamé at this point.
Right.
Polka dots, streak. I'm that dude at this point.
Flat top, tilted, the whole...
I'm on a zillion. So the kids is freaking out. They had to put me in a closet and give me work to do in the closet, and they made me leave the school before the kids left. Kids got out of school because it was too much craziness. And that's how I finished school. I had to do an extra 6 months of high school, and I had to just fill in reports. I would go on tour, come back. This is the report.
Right.
What was the report about? I went to Albuquerque and I wrote a report on Albuquerque.
I found this place called Kalamazoo.
But literally, I was in a place called Kalamazoo and I wrote about it. Literally, no bullshit.
So did I.
And I'm like, man, you can't make none of this up.
No.
None of this. Well, all the other rappers I knew, they was on tour, they was doing clubs, I'm sitting in this daggone broom closet, filling out SATs and crap. I was not feeling that, man. But I knew that I had to push it. I could not go to school.
Awesome. That's an amazing, portion of your story, man. I mean, it's when these I don't know if it's the same now, but maybe it is. I don't know, but I know at that time that was beyond special, right? Even for you to go through it, the kids to experience it in the schools with you. I think today kids are a little more like, so what? You're rapping now, and everybody's doing it exactly. So at that point, it was very special. It was, it wasn't a bunch of those stories going around. So that's, that was quite a treat, I'm sure, for you and for those in the situation with you, Wow, that's cool. So let me remind you, I don't know if you remember when we first met. We first met, I believe, you had a show in Connecticut. And at this time,
I know it was at a show.
My cousin, Andrew McKay, who was your road manager at the time.
Wait, Andrew's your cousin?
Absolutely. 100,000%.
Did I know this?
I believe you did. I'm sure you did. Yeah, absolutely.
I remember everything. As you're telling it, it's all gonna
come back. so
I didn't know Dru was your cousin, though.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So he brings me, with him. First of all, he had the red Volvo at the time, and I always, wherever that Volvo was, I needed to be wherever it was, right?
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, if you look at any of the Herbie Love Bug, Salt and Pepper videos or Heavy D videos, you're gonna see that red Volvo kitted out. The most flavorful car around at the time belonged to Andrew McKay, my cousin.
Yes, that Volvo was the truth.
Was sick. So anyway, you're at a show. He brings me. We meet. I meet at that time. I think you have with you obviously Tat, your DJ, right?
Mm-hmm.
The amazing Tat. Tat Money,
yes.
Absolutely. You had A Sharp, I believe.
Yep.
And then another brother that I befriended him. We became cool, which was Peekaboo, the dancer, right?
Yeah.
Sick dancer. I mean, just that. Was there somebody? Was there another person? Am I missing somebody?
There was if depending on the year, it would have been A Sharp, my boy Al, Peekaboo, another cat named Curtis. We used to call him C Major.
Okay.
And Tap Money. And if it was like during the second album,
Tasha,
who sang Ownleeeue, joined
right.
the crew. But depending on what year that was.
Right. I don't know that
Tasha was around before the second album.
Before the second album, correct? Because I think she was at that show.
Yeah.
But the second album had not come out yet. So that was where we first met, and I was probably, I think either I might be a year younger than you. I'm not sure. We might be exactly the same age, maybe.
Yeah.
But I remember, at this point, I was pursuing my music career as well, and producing, and you were a great influence on me. Again, there weren't many people my age that I was around who was doing it, right?
Yeah.
Again, Jermaine and I early on, that was like the beginning of it for us, and then after that was you, to be honest with you. So seeing you, just was so much swag, like the creativity of it all. Like I didn't even understand it. Like I'm just sitting there like, what is it? Like I don't even know it's called polka dots at the time, right? I'm like, what is it? This is my rendition of polka dots tonight. Yo, where did that come from?
So it came from several things at one time.
Mm-hmm.
One, it came from being broke. So my go-to, when you're a teenager and you have like a go-to outfit, like this is my go-to. I'm going out and if I put this on, I'm getting all the numbers.
Right.
For me, it was this white shirt with black polka dots. And then I had this black tie with white polka dots. And I had these black socks with white polka dots to match. And that was my coordinating. You
gotta coordinate.
Yes, that was my thing. And I wore it because I didn't have a stylist. Nobody gave me a wardrobe budget.
Right.
You had to wear the best clothes you had on your album cover.
Figure it out.
On the front of my album, I had on one outfit, but in the back of the album, I had on this black and white ensemble with those dots. And the same outfit I wore from the same photo shoot, it was my first, The Man We All Know and Love single cover. It was the same outfit on that cover. So then you have two things with polka dots. And then when I shot my video got shot and released a month after the records were out.
Mm-hmm.
So in the video, I pulled that white shirt back out and it became pajamas in the video. I had like this all white pajama thing with black dots.
I remember that.
And that was it. You know what I'm saying? That was the end of it. And so
that was some of your prints right there. The pajamas.
Yeah. But the thing was, it wasn't about polka dots. It was about wanting to dress like, honestly, the Harlem Renaissance. That was all that was in my mind. Harlem Renaissance, 1930s, 1940s.
Yeah. Wow.
Bumpy Johnson, you know, because everybody was trying to be Nino Brown.
Right.
I wanted to be Bumpy Johnson. I wanted to be, you know, those type of that zoot suit gangster kind of guy. If we're gonna be gangsters, you know, y'all want to be that kind of gangster. I'm gonna be this guy, you know. So that was my thing. It was just the suits, and you know, so a lot of my suits were either vintage or tailor-made, and it was always made to be within that time frame.
Right.
And so I remember my very first performance. It was weird. This was like a span of 24 hours. Yes, Cab Calloway. Somebody said Cab Calloway. 1,000% influence in dress. Right. So the first performance I had to do was a show in Philly at this club called After Midnight. Mm-hmm. And After Midnight was a 21 and older club, and they let the 16-year-old perform. And it was me, Kool G Rap, Queen Latifah, and I think Sweet Tea. And I was the opening act. And I get on stage, and nobody rocks with me. They're looking at me like, whatever. And at the time, I had a DJ. My first DJ was named B Flat. And I just remember somebody screaming in the audience, B got a flat head. That's all I remember about that. The show was terrible.
Wow.
And then
it must have been real quiet for you to hear that.
It was very quiet. The next day, we go to this mall in this area, another area in Philly, and the mall is called the Cheltenham Mall. But when we get to the mall, it's lines of kids wrapped around the corner, like jam-packed throughout the mall, flipping out and super happy to see me. And I'm like, oh shit! Like it didn't resonate that these records were working yet.
Wow.
This is my first time, so I'm like, what the fuck? Right. So I'm bugging out. And then after that in-store signing, we had to go to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where I was opening up for Sweet Tea again. And I was kind of bummed out. Like, here we go. I'm about to open up for Sweet Tea. I'm about to get laughed at again.
Right.
And I get on stage, and I would say 80% of the guys had on polka dot shirts with the flat top and the blonde hair.
Wow.
And 100% of the girls had on a polka dot outfit.
Wow.
I walk on stage. I look around. Herbie Lovebug was there, and I remember saying, I got on the mic and I was like, Herbie, you're fucking with me. And I walked off the stage. I wouldn't get on stage because I thought it was a joke.
You thought he set you up?
Yeah, I thought it was like, because we used to play these super elaborate jokes on each other. Right. And I was like, I don't know how he did that, but he did it.
I don't know how he did that shit right there, but you pulled that one off.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm not getting on stage. Y'all not playing me like that. I'm not doing it. And everybody was like, nah, dude, they're here to see you. I'm like, nah, man, I don't believe it. It's like, nah, for real, they're here to see you. And I got out there, and the kids went crazy, and it was my age. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't impressing the 21-year-olds and the 25-year-olds.
Right.
They had Kane, they had Rakim. Those are their guys.
Right.
You know.
Right.
I was for the kids, and
wow.
It was. And from every city from that point we went to, it was like that. It was like, you know, because right after that, I went on this NWA tour, and we only did arenas. We did 30,000 seaters at all times. And to walk on stage, and NWA was the big thing, and see everybody wanting to either look like Eazy-E or somebody, but there was a sizable amount of people that was polka dotted down, and we saw it everywhere. And that's when, like you said, the Prince thing kind of kicked in, because I was like, yo, man, I always felt that an artist, there should be things that are bigger than the art that the artist is doing.
Yeah.
So for me, that signature was the dots, and the dots turned into something else. The dots started to represent, and I wasn't like trying to sit there and like make this up,
right?
But it started to represent kids my age, kids younger than me, who didn't want to be on that street shit, who wanted to be on some intellectual nerd, different, divergent type of kid, and that's who like to dance, who like to rap, who like to have fun.
Yeah. It was a subculture.
Tell stories.
It was a subculture. It became a subculture. Absolutely.
And it wasn't just an American thing.
Right.
That's what blew my mind. It was a worldwide thing. Like I remember one time, Will Smith called me from Morocco. And he just put the phone out and one of my records was playing. He was like, yo, man, these kids are in here looking like you. Spazzing out.
Wow.
I'm like, what? I want to go to Morocco. And to this day, I never really realized that just something like polka dots would be a representation of like you said, like this of a subculture of kids who appreciated hip hop but didn't have to be of the major part of what hip hop was doing.
100%. 100%. Wow. Okay. So let me ask you, what did this all do to you? Like, you're successful, you're making money, you're still super young. Who are you becoming? And did you finally, did you gain some identity or,
I think I was fully in my identity, but I think after the second album, it was weird for me. It was like, there was always some sort of resistance. And from this point on, I'm not speaking like a victim. I don't want to speak like, I don't want to be one of them artists that start crying, oh, I didn't know they were taking my publishing, shit like that. I'm not speaking from that tone.
Right.
But I'm just speaking from the reality of a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old. There was always a somewhat of a resistance to what I was trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. I started to become extremely self-aware, extremely aware of my culture, of my ethnicity, and aware of the potential of the people that I was coming up with. And I'm saying all that.
Bigger than music, you mean? Bigger than music.
Yeah, I was aware that of the influence of music. I was aware of the politics of music.
The danger? Did you understand the danger as well? Did you see the danger of music as well at some point?
I understood that I was in a jungle.
Okay.
And jungles are dangerous.
Right.
But I felt like I was of the jungle, so it wasn't like, I wasn't a tourist.
Okay.
So I understood where to walk and where not to walk. Mm-hmm. But there were things that I was trying to achieve. There was things that I was trying to do as an artist that I just kept getting resistance on. Now, maybe some of them things could have been whack. You know what I'm saying? I may have wanted to do something and everybody was like, look, we're trying to save this dude's career. Please let him not do that.
Right.
He wants to show up on a rope and fly through the audience or something. Maybe it was something like that. I don't know, but there was, I was like I said, I was being fully aware, and the more aware I became, and the more resistance I started seeking, the more reclusive I became.
Wow.
So
I understand that. Mm-hmm.
At one point, I might have lost my damn mind, for lack of a better term. I don't know it at the time, but at one point, after the second album, going into the third album, I was zoning out. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't go out. I wouldn't perform. I would just lock myself. There was an old gun factory in Pennsylvania, in Philly, right outside of Philly, that I stayed in. It was a studio. It was a studio called K-Gem, and it was like a converted gun factory. It was haunted too, by the way.
Really? Is this where the bat came into the place one time? I heard that story.
Your boy Andrew turned into a 5-year-old.
I heard about this story.
Real quick, there was so the gun factory studio had a home not too far that rented out. You rented out the home, and I remember like all of us, all these tough dudes from Brooklyn, and everybody was sitting in the living room, and then this bat just comes through the living room. Rah! Yo, when I tell you, all the grown-up hardcore dudes that were standing there turned into little kids. Andrew freaked out.
I heard.
Get it.
He said it was like a Larry Curly and Moe moment where
everybody was
running into each other. Shit.
So I kind of locked myself in the studio, and I started really getting into my production skills, but learning the hard way that there was such thing as overproducing. So I was like making like 96 track rap records, like
right,
wow, like and it was so cool because I was like able to. Nobody was able to sample Prince at the time, and Prince gave me like carte blanche to sample things, and I was sampling weird Prince stuff and Stevie Wonder stuff.
So you had a relationship with Prince? Is that what?
No, not at all. Like
really?
I had no kind of relationship. I did not know him, but when I asked for permission, I got an immediate yes. When everybody was getting an immediate no.
They sure were.
And I got an immediate yes, and I got the message was Prince said to be as creative as you want to be. Wow. And so I was spazzing out.
Right.
Boop, 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 boop. I was like, I'm telling you, I was, anybody that knows how recording was, you have the 24 track, and I brought in another 24 track. And
absolutely. And then another.
I was literally losing my mind without the use of drums.
Now, is this after the second album, or is this before the second album?
This is after the second album.
After. So, okay, so the career are you shifting now? Is that what's happening? Like, are you shifting from artist to producer at this point?
I was always producer.
Right.
I was always producer.
Okay.
It was just a one thing. It was like, I can't do one without the other.
Right.
So I'm in my full creative bag. I'm bringing orchestras in. I'm bringing jazz bands in. I'm doing the wildest stuff.
Right.
And the label was like, nah, dude. Nah.
Right.
Nah. So instead of an album, I wanted to come out like every year, 89, 90, 91. So by the time the third album comes, I have this album's called Nastee. I'm in a weird headspace. The album is weird. Hip hop is starting to go in the Tribe Called Quest direction. I'm on some, I don't know what I'm on.
Right.
And I don't know if the album flopped, but it didn't do what I wanted it to do.
Right.
And I was like, peace, I'm out. Like literally. I was like, y'all not letting me be, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit.
Right.
Y'all not letting me be my artist self, I'm out. And somebody was like, are you sure you want to do that? Like, maybe. And then I started getting things from Atlantic, like, you should toughen up, man. Come out and wear some Timbs and a lumberjack and carry a bat. I'm like, wait, what?
Whoa.
And I, don't have, the streak and the flat top, that thing that's played out. Get some braids.
Right.
Put on a Carhartt jacket. You're from Queens. Tough it up. And so when I got that memo, I was like, peace, I'm out. I'm all the way out.
Right.
Like all the way. Y'all can have this rap shit. It's not for me. I'm an artist.
Right.
I'm a producer. I'm a songwriter.
Right.
I got all the way into my bag.
Right.
And I retreated. And
I get it.
I don't know what else to say. I was never dropped from a label.
Right.
I literally sent I had my lawyer, and I was one of those guys who like, tape everything I say. I respectfully decline your contract.
Now, at this point, this wasn't the divorce lawyer. You had upgraded.
No, I had a real lawyer.
Okay, you had a real lawyer now. Okay, good.
And it was like, you sure you want to send this letter? Send this letter. Send it to Sylvia Road right now. I respectfully refuse your contract.
So again, so you had to be in a really weird emotional place at this point. Like you had to be.
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't know if I'm being a spoiled brat. I don't know if I'm being a forward thinker, and now I feel like I'm a forward thinker because I saw like cats like a Kanye West or a Pharrell or a lot of people do everything that I was trying to do.
Correct.
Every single thing that they did, I was trying to get Atlantic Records to let me do everything. Right. So for me, it was like, man, this is some bullshit. I'm out.
Right.
And that's when the smoky time came, and it was like, not smoky. I wasn't smoking anything. I don't think.
We always used to wonder though with those eyes. We always were like,
I know.
Is this nigga high or what? What's happening?
Exactly.
We all wanted to know.
That's the funny thing. I would get that in 6th grade. Are you high? And I'm like, I'm 12. What is high? I'm 12 years old.
Hilarious. Okay, so I'm assuming that at that point, you're still being creative, but there had to be something else going on. Did you develop some other interests and other things? What was happening?
I was doing nothing.
No, so you sound like me. So you went on some sort of sabbatical? Is that what happened?
Yeah, I didn't even know if I was trying to find myself. I was doing nothing. I was still making music. I'm never going to not make music.
Right. You were being creative.
I'm still being creative, but I'm being creative to myself, by myself.
Right.
Then, you have concerned parents. My mother's like, I have a friend who has a eyeglass. He's an ophthalmologist. He said he can teach you how to make eyeglasses. You want to go into that business? I'm like, I don't want to make glasses. I want to wear glasses.
Wow.
My mother was always calling me, Mike. I have another friend.
No.
You go to dental school if you want. You can I don't want to be a dentist. I need a dentist. Like,
stop. She wanted the best for her baby.
Then it was like I had a uncle that was a college professor, and he was like, you come and you could do a work study program and just go to school and teach kids. I was like, man, I don't want to do nothing. Just leave me alone.
Okay, so here's a question from left field. So when did you write Poison?
So Poison, I wrote the rap.
Right. Who's rap?
That was in '89.
Michael Bivins' rap.
Ronnie.
Ronnie's rap. Oh, okay.
So in '89, when I was on my first album, that's another thing. It was probably the biggest mistake I've ever made. Biggest mistake that led to a great thing. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
So I was always on a quest to expand my music and expand music. So in the middle of my first album, while everybody else went on tour and did everything, I came to LA. And I decided that I was going to come to LA and be the next John Williams or Hans Zimmer and compose music for movies. And I'm like, and everybody's like, dude, you got to hit an album out. You should be on tour. First that I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to make a movie.
Oh, shit.
So I followed Kid and Play and Herbie to LA while they shoot House Party. We're all living in the same apartment building. Shouts to the Oakwood.
The Oakwood. I was about to say, it wasn't called the Oakwood, was it? You had to stay at the Oakwood.
Yes.
Wow.
Oakwood. And Kid and Play's making a movie. And it was weird because I would be on the set like every day. And the weird thing about it is I wouldn't be in the movie, but there was like 10 Kwame lookalikes throughout the movie the whole time, and I'm sitting there beefing. Like, yo, how you gonna have this dude up in this movie, and he in the background dancing, got my hairstyle, got my same outfit on, but I can't be in the movie.
That was pretty weird, actually, right? I mean,
that was a very weird, but I was there to make music, and all I was doing was smashing girls, man. I wasn't doing anything. So I wasn't doing any music.
That part.
And at one point, I was messing with some girl whose brother knew New Edition. So the brother was like, "You want to meet New Edition?" And I was like, "Okay." Right. The first person we go to Ralph's house. Me and Ralph hit it up. So me and Ralph hang out the whole day, playing video games, playing records. Right. We're kids. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Everybody's like a kid.
Yeah.
So, from Ralph's house, he was like, "Let's go to Ricky, Ronnie, and Mike. They all live together." So we go to this house, and it's Ricky, Ronnie, and Mike playing Sega Genesis. And we all playing Sega Genesis all day. So I get cool with them. And so in my mind, I'm kind of bugging out because, it's New Edition. And, we're all in the same age bracket.
Right.
And so one day, me and Mike had a mutual friend named Dougie D.
Dougie.
So Dougie D, Dana Dane, he was out in LA as well. Mm. And Mike, we all called him. We were going to this club called the Palladium.
The Palladium. Oh my God.
So
bring me back right there.
Up. I'm in the back seat. I remember he was driving this Jeep Cherokee. And it was like some new Jeep Cherokee I had never seen before. I was like, "Oh, he got a Jeep Cherokee. He's popping."
They balling.
So we driving in this Jeep Cherokee, and Biv was like, "Yo, I want to play y'all something. Don't tell nobody." You know how Biv had the song theory. Don't tell nobody, but me, Ronnie, and Rick, we about to start our own group. So I'm in the back like, "Ah!" So I start laughing. I'm like, "Yo,
you stupid."
I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh man, I'm serious. We gonna start this group called BBD." I'm like, "Ah!" And so Dana and Dougie's looking at me like, "You shut the fuck up, man." So he's like, "Nah, seriously." I'm like, "Seriously?" He's like, "Yeah, man." So he puts in his record, and it's Poison. It's the beat to Poison.
Right.
And he's starting to kind of sing the verses, and I'm sitting in the back like, "Yo, this is the worst song I've ever heard in my life."
So you hated it?
I was hating
the beat, everything. Were you hating on it, or did you actually hate it? Were you hating on it, or did you?
That shit.
You hated it.
Yo, what is he playing? I was like, "You sure you want to start your own group?" And he was like, "Nah, man, I'm telling you, we're gonna." I was like, and so Dana and Doug was like, "Just don't." I'm like, "Man, this shit is whack." And he was like, I was brutally honest back then, to my own detriment at times. So Mike was like, "Nah, seriously, I need some raps. Y'all think y'all can come up with some raps to this?" I said, "Y'all gonna rap?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, so by the time we pulled up to the club, I handed him a napkin. I said, "Here, man." I threw the napkin on his lap. He was like, "What the fuck is that?" I said, "Poison, deadly, moving in slow. Nothing like looking for a fella like DeVoe getting paid late, so you better lay low. Scheming on hearts, money in the whole show. Low pro hoe should be cut like an afro." But saying like the whole line. He was like, "Oh, that's dope. I'm gonna use it." I was like, "Good luck."
Wow.
We went to the club. We hung out, and the next thing I know, I get a call from Biv. "Yo, Kwam, you in Jersey?" I'm like, "Yeah. Come meet us at the video. We shooting a video for Poison." That song? Y'all about to really do that song for real?
Wow.
And then one of the big butts in the Smile Girls I was messing with, and she called me. She was like, "Yeah, I'm going to this video for BBD." I said, "Oh, I'm going." So when I got there, that's how I heard the song for the first time.
Wow.
At the video, it was freezing, and they out there doing their dances in their different color valleys and stuff.
That's right.
And I'm like, "Yo, it is cold as shit." But the once the song was mixed,
Right.
Once, I heard like the rough draft of it.
Yeah.
So once you hear the whole thing, I'm like, all right, this is dope. But then here come Ronnie, Poison, Deadly, Move It In Slow. I'm like, oh shit, here's my run. And I'm hyped at that point. And then you work out everything after that.
I was gonna say, did you handle the business? Was it
later?
Okay.
Way later.
Oh, way later. Okay, I get it.
But
say
that's
less.
literally how it happened. And that was like I said, during the first album when I was trying to be Hans Zimmer in LA.
Wow. Unbelievable. That is a classic story, Kwamé.
Yeah, man. It was a crazy time. And then, so now jumping into now early 90s, I'm now, 21, 22.
Damn.
Thinking 21, 22, feeling like I'm 40. Because I felt like I had a full life.
You've been through a lot.
3 or 4 years. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I lived a full life.
Yeah.
And thinking I can get another deal, nobody was fucking with me. That was like, I would knock on doors and all I would hear was echoes. Boom, 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 boom.
Right.
Nobody's home. Oh my God.
How did you feel about that? I mean, what kind of mental state did that put you in?
I don't know. You know what? I didn't know what to feel like. It was just like, because it was weird because everywhere I went, it was still what my girl likes to call Kwamé Day. It was like, it was still like anywhere I go, it was still the Kwamé experience.
Right.
But this just was no records out there.
Right.
And rap was drastically changing.
Yeah.
Rap was drastically changing to the point that even my influences weren't around anymore.
Yeah.
Like nobody I knew was around anymore.
Right.
And then I felt like it's weird. It's the only way to equate it is like, imagine being in a high school and that was the time of your life. And then in your senior year, you have to go away. And you go away for 2 or 3 years. And you come back and the only thing you know is your high school.
Right.
So you go up to the high school like the creepy older guy and you're up there and you know nobody.
Nobody. Yeah.
Everything is different.
Everything is different.
Like, that's kind of how it was feeling.
Yeah.
But then to make it even weirder, you know nobody, but everybody knows you.
Yeah.
So you're like, what is this? What am I going to do? And then I eventually landed a deal in with this label in Atlanta, out of Atlanta called Ichiban. Yeah. Okay. Oh my God.
That must have been interesting.
That was the greatest, worst experience of my life.
Yeah. They were like an independent sort of label. Sort of.
That experience taught me how to be a good, what I think I'm a good producer. So it taught me how to be a good producer.
Right.
And because I had a whole album on deck. And I remember bringing it to the guy, the head of the label, a dude named John. And he was like, this is a great album, but I'm not using none of it because it has samples. And I'm not paying for a sample.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So I was like, word, I'll play everything then. So I went to the studio and I had to make a whole album of me playing everything. Wow. And if I couldn't play it, I'd bring somebody in to play it or play it better.
Right.
And I loved the album, to be honest. The album was terribly mixed and terribly mastered. But I love that album. The album's called Incognito, and that it was. And it was also it was a cultural experience for me because I got to learn Atlanta.
Right.
I was staying out in Smyrna.
Right.
Being out in Fayetteville and then going into, Midtown and all these different spots of Atlanta. And I was like, I want to move to Atlanta.
Did you run into Jermaine while you were out there? Did you meet Jermaine and did you run into him? And
no, one time. I don't know if JD remembers this, but I remember I had to do a show. And I did some show. It was like in a gym somewhere. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the show was for, but I was one of the performers on the show. And JD came through with Left Eye. Mm. And I was hanging out with Left Eye during that time. Mm-hmm. And Andre, when she was going out with Andre Rison. And I was hanging out with them. And like I think I might have been at her house, and I was like, yo, I'm about to do this show. And she came, JD came, and it was the worst show on the planet.
It's one of those.
Like, the audience was looking at me like, will this nigga hurry the hell up? It was horrible.
Right.
And I know I kind of felt some kind of way because I didn't want to be in an embarrassing situation in front of JD and in front of Lisa. I did not want to. That was the thing that was in my brain. Because
you didn't want to disappoint.
They were sitting in the front seat.
Right.
They were like 5 feet from me, and I'm rapping. And you know, Jermaine was into it. Lisa was into it. But the crowd was like, burn!
Right.
And I was like, oh, man. I'm like, Jermaine just being nice at this point. And I just remember Jermaine was doing like the ultimate flex. I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, JD, if you're still in the room. He came to the show in one Ferrari, and then somebody picked him up in a whole nother Ferrari. I'm like, yo, what the hell?
That sounds like him. I
was like, I had to do a crappy show. I'm trying to impress Jermaine Dupri.
Hilarious.
He stunts on me like Evel Knievel and his son. That was like the worst, funniest word. And I'm like, I appreciate all of what life offers me.
Right.
Good and the bad.
Right.
So for me, it was like the funniest episode of Seinfeld. I laughed through the whole thing. I was like, this was the worst day of my life. But this shit, if you had to look at it on a TV screen, this was the funniest episode of the Kwamé Chronicles. I swear to God.
Kwamé, listen, I have to understand this, though, because this kind of shit, I need to understand who you are, because this kind of shit would destroy most people. Right?
No, it's never going to destroy me.
So you just received it. You're like, you know, this is a part of the process. Like, what was it?
Yo, everything. My life is in constant linear motion.
Right.
I don't attach myself to a year. Mm. I don't attach myself to an age.
Wow, sounds.
I don't attach myself to a fad or a phase that's going on.
Right.
I just go and I observe first person and I observe third person at the same time. It may sound weird, but that's how I process things. I process things as first person and third person at the same time. So the good, the bad, and the ugly, when I go through it, there's a part of me that feels the pain from it, but then there's another part of me going, "Oh, you're the dude!" So,
absolutely.
It's always like you're here for a reason, and like. I know I'm probably sounding like the ultra weirdo, but it's like a voice in my head that says, you're here for a reason, stick it out, see what happens next. What happens once you turn this page? What happens on the next page? What happens in the next episode? Because it might be funny as shit, or you might die. One of the two.
Well, something.
It's going to be a funny story, or it's going to be an interesting story.
So, Fascinating.
Stick it out. And because and another thing was, yes, if it destroys somebody, if it messes with somebody's soul or psyche or whatever, the only thing that I say to that is, the difference between me, I feel, and a lot of other people, the music, the creative stuff, for a lot of people is something that they do. So when you're doing something and if it doesn't work out, you feel some sort of way and you don't want to do it no more. You feel inadequate or you feel less than or whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, the creative stuff that I am about and I'm a part of, I feel that it's something that I am.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between what you do and who
you are. 100%.
So nobody's never gonna question whatever I do in this space.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, yo, you're questioning who I am.
Right.
You're questioning my very existence, and until I do not exist anymore, this is who I am.
This is who you are.
And y'all just gonna have to deal with it. I'm dealing with it. I gotta deal with it at 16. I had to deal with it at 9. I had to deal with it at 35. I'm dealing with it at 49. And it's like, yo, do what the hell you do and be who you are. And and that's just it. And so I think when people say, oh man, you must be resilient, or you must be strong, or you must be thick-skinned. I'm like, I don't know if I'm all of that.
Right.
I'm just alive.
Right. You're experiencing it. Like you're not.
Yeah, I'm just alive doing whatever I do.
Yeah.
And whatever happens.
And you don't even take it that serious, right? It's like, I mean, there's a passion to it, but I'm thinking that, you're doing it because it's who you are. It's like waking up in the morning and taking a piss.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay, so I'm going to take a piss. Right. We'll give you a minute.
No.
But no, yeah, totally. And I feel like at some point that's exactly, where I was with it at some point as well, where this is not, it's just who I am. So if it doesn't work, I can walk away from it. I'll just do something else that I'm equally as passionate about. And if that don't work, I'll do that again and find something. As long as I'm passionate about it, I can keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so. It's like I think sometimes it could be a detriment as well, because if I'm like, if I'm
you
just
walk
like,
away.
If I'm so, it's not that I don't care. I care immensely, because if I don't care, it's like I say I don't care about myself.
Yeah.
So I do care.
Right.
I care I care more than anything, and I think because I care more than I think most people do, it sometimes may inhibit me from like getting these certain, what they call bags. Because the people to me that don't care are the ones that get the biggest bags. Because they're like, yo, I'm just after this bag. I'm just going to do and I'm going to get it, and I'm going to go be rich in the world.
You're right.
And I'm like one of these dudes that if you put me in a robe in some monastery with all the equipment in the world and and be like, yeah, you could just flourish. You could just do whatever you want. Free food, free electricity.
Right.
You just be creative. I'm like, oh, give me that. And not have a quarter in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? And I think I got to find balance.
No, I get it. Yeah. No, I get it. So where are we now? Like, I know that, I hadn't heard much from you, and then all of a sudden, to me, I mean, I know that you were doing some, this thing called the alumni, where you were, moving around the country with some of your fellow peers in the game, and y'all were performing and doing all that. But when COVID hit, I saw you DJing. Right. So when did that happen? Like, what made you get into that?
So I think, just two-sided question. So where am I now? So what I started doing, from 2001 actually, deep diving as a producer, and finding success there as a producer, as a songwriter, and enjoying that freedom, because there's nothing more than, I love nothing more than to be able to communicate with other creative people.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't always have to be, once I decided that it doesn't have to be me in front of the thing, and I could be behind the boards, and I could still express myself through writing and producing. I'm going to do that and try to guide other people in that direction. So, was able to find success at that, or my level of success at that, and which was way more lucrative than the rap career.
Right.
But at the same time, so up until that point, you get to 2015. In 2015, I did a deal with Universal Music, and I started a boutique label called Make Noise, and
I remember that.
The premier artist on Make Noise.
I remember.
Singer-songwriter Vivian Green, and so
that's the last time I saw you.
Yeah.
Remember? I saw you in the restaurant.
Yep. And what was it? Not California Pizza Kitchen.
The Grand Lux, I think.
Grand Lux.
Yeah. In Jersey.
So then with Vivian, I started, writing, co-writing, and producing her projects, and that was a good space that I liked to be in. It was like, the adult R&B space. We did very well in that space. #1 records. It was.
Song was hot.
So we were doing. Hold on, I gotta put the. The cord in my phone. This thing is about to go zap.
Zip.
So doing well with that, and then pandemic hits, and I didn't say to myself, "Oh, I'm gonna DJ" or anything like that. But it was my birthday, and what was the first year of the pandemic? 2019?
2020. Yeah. March of 2020.
Yeah, March. So my birthday is March 28th. So March 19th, I believe, was the day that everything shut down.
Pretty much.
We were doing a show in Vegas, and we couldn't do the show. We had everything, literally, we watched Vegas close down. It was like, what? It was like a ghost town. And so there were plans that I had for my birthday, and I couldn't do that. So I was like, you know what? I want to throw an online concert / DJ set. And instead of me getting something for my birthday, I knew everybody was at home. Let me give something for my birthday. So all of the artists that I was cool with, I put on this thing, and it was ironic because it was like the last appearance of Prince Markie D. You know what I'm saying? One of the last public appearances of Biz Markie. One of the last public performance of Kango Kid.
Wow.
I didn't really, you don't realize that when you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so from that point, it turned into like a thing. I call it Saturday Morning Tunes. And I was just playing my favorite records growing up.
Right.
Especially because I felt like the era that I grew up in, the golden era that I grew up in, is grossly misrepresented.
Yeah.
Grossly.
Absolutely.
Everybody thinks rap started with Biggie and Tupac. And, if it didn't start, Biggie, Tupac, and Wu-Tang, they started hip-hop.
Yeah.
And there's nothing against any of them.
Yeah.
But rap did not start in 94. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I'm like, I want to represent my graduating class. I want to represent the time that I grew up.
Right.
And so every Saturday, like clockwork, for pretty much 2 years straight, I was able to do Saturday Morning Tunes. I miss it. And the only reason why I don't do it anymore is because on the weekends I'm doing shows.
Right.
So if I'm not doing a Vivian Green show, I'm doing one of my shows. Right. So that's the only thing that keeps me away from it. But that was pretty much it, you know. And then I did it a couple of times with bringing the artists in and having fun with it.
Right.
And it was just a good vibe, and it was able to bring people together, and it was dope.
Now, I mean, can we see that? Is that still living on your page somewhere, like that? Those moments?
Yeah, but you know what's so weird? This is the thing that I never got. As time progressed with the DJ sets, maybe I was doing something wrong. I don't know. But Instagram, we used to call Instagram Agent Smith, and Agent Smith would come into this matrix and shut it down. Like I was like 3 records, and then it'd be like, burn, copyright infringement. And it was like, yo, man, why am I the only one getting clipped, man? I'm like, somebody at Instagram don't like me. But
we should have called D Nice. That's what we should have called.
He has a hall
he got the golden key.
I know he got that Willy Wonka golden ticket.
Yeah, he definitely got the golden.
Through the halls.
Got the golden ticket for sure. So that's what happened. They pulled him down.
Yeah, so you know, and then it was like there's a community here, and you see it because you're doing your interviews and you're growing a community with your interviews, and there's a community. We call each other the Tune Crew, and the Tune Crew was up in there, and there were Tune Crew meetups. There are people that come. I'm on stage and like Tune Crew, and you know it's weird. It's like even like where I live in Orange County in California, and it's like really like if I want to see another black person, sometimes I just gotta look in the mirror. That's the only time. So it's weird. So I'll be at like some random store and it'll be just a random person behind me going, Saturday morning tunes. So it definitely
resonated.
Reached a lot of people that I just did not imagine that it does. And you know, and when I have the time, when I have the space, I definitely do it as much as I can. Will I consider myself a quote unquote DJ? Will I start doing parties? I don't know. I don't know. I think I got better as a DJ.
You probably would be really good, Kwamé. I think you'd be a really, really good DJ.
You know what? When Vivian goes out, there's she takes a break or a set change, and I DJ. Right. And you know, and I do well sometimes. No.
But I would come to see Kwamé DJ. Absolutely.
You know what? Thanks. You might be the only one there, but
no, I don't believe that to be true. You know what you should do? We need to call Rich Medina, and we need to get you to his spot in Miami or the spot in Maryland and Baltimore, and get you over there to DJ. I think you need a night.
All right, let's do it. I'll fly out to Baltimore, and especially Miami. It's cold as California right now.
I think you need a night. Yo, I heard it's like 40-something degrees or 30-something. What's happening?
I got on a hoodie, a jacket.
I'm like,
it's cold, man. I don't know. You know, winter, man. What can I do?
All right, but go ahead.
No, what was you gonna say? I'm sorry.
No. I'm saying, you know, I've had you here for almost 2 hours now, man. We've been going. But I wanted, before we get out of here, I want to talk about the greatness in that room, and I want to talk about how did you get here? Like, where did this, you know, love and passion for collecting toys come from?
So, to answer that question, and partially, you know, just to bring it to other things, my life now is the connection of collecting is now starting to merge in with the music. So there are a lot of 2023, 2024 things happening, things that are under contract that I can't really speak about, but that are happening that are literally merging my two passions, and I'm super hyped about. I think I'm probably more hyped than any. I'm probably more hyped for this than any music thing that I've done. But the thing with the collecting, I don't know. I don't know if it's. I remember when I was like 13, and I remember I used to collect G.I. Joe and Star Wars and stuff. Right. And my father was like, "Look, man, you're about to be a teenager. You're 13 years old. I'm not buying any more of this shit." I'm like, but say all this Star Wars shit, I'm not buying any more of it.
Right.
So you got to figure out what you want and what you want to get, but it ain't gonna be this.
Right.
I said, well, I want turntables and a mixer. And then from like 12, 13, the passion of collecting, the little kid in me left, and then I was like laser focused on what I wanted to do. I wanted a Casio keyboard. I wanted a Synsonic drums. I wanted things like that. And then as I started, once I was traveling and going around the country and around the world, I started seeing vintage toys and vintage collectibles. And I'm like, man, my pops can't tell me I can't buy this. And I started recollecting and then re-getting into my comic books and re-getting into collecting action figures. And I'm wondering subconsciously if there's any psychiatrists out there, psychologists out there. I wonder if it's like, is he making up for the lost childhood after 13 that he couldn't collect toys? I don't know. But
hilarious.
It's a passion. It's something that I'm very knowledgeable on. It's something that I'm very passionate about. It's acquisitions. It's not like I'm buying something that is not
worth something. Absolutely.
People just see toys. They see animal in the back, but they don't know if I sell this animal, I can get $3,500 for it. You know what I'm saying? They don't know.
Cha-ching.
It's thing like, and I'm never going to sell it. I'm not trying to do that.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, it is an acquisition. It is a thing that I am really, really into, and sometimes I'm into it a little bit too much to the point where like I need to be buying this new equipment or I need to be doing that, and I'm over here looking for this $800 Optimus Prime that can transform itself.
Did you make one of those? Did you make one of those memes yet? Where they have the audio that says the reason why I don't have any money or the reason I'm going broke. And
I made my own meme. I made a whole song out of it. I made my own meme about just being a collector, being a grown ass collector. There's nothing nobody can do about it. Right. And luckily, like in that community, I've seen like it start to trickle down. That people making their own videos about it.
Right.
But
wow.
Yeah. So then I just turned it into this thing that I do every Tuesday. I was doing the DJ on Saturday, so every Tuesday I do this thing called Toy Tuesday. And I just show a new toy that I get in. And honestly, the cool thing about it, when I first started showing it, it was me going out buying toys or toys that I already had. Right. And then it turned into people sending me the toys. I'm like, oh shit, I'm getting free toys from this?
Wow.
Toy Tuesday.
Right. Wow, that's crazy.
And that's what it is. But it's also, no, I'm not, if anybody asks, I'm not sitting on the floor playing with G.I. Joe Men versus Star Wars versus Batman. I'm not doing no weird shit like that.
Oh man.
But
classic.
It's escapism.
I get it.
And I think this is very important. Very, 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 very important. I'm about to be on my old man shit right now. Mm-hmm. It's always important to stay in touch with the 10-year-old you.
100%.
Because, and that's another one of my things. It's like, this is time to me. You see this line?
Mm-hmm.
So in this line, this is the 49-year-old me. This is the 10-year-old me. Yeah. Those two me still exist.
Yeah.
But in different places. And if I lose touch of this guy right here,
yeah,
I may lose touch with how to deal with my own kids, how to deal with grandkids, how to deal with nephews, how to deal with other people's children.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of adults, especially parents, that lose touch with that other self that exists.
Mm-hmm.
And then they become the grumpy old grandpa, the grumpy old mom, the hating parent, because they totally forget.
Yeah.
And that's never going to be me. So if buying toys, if having Fat Albert at my disposal,
oh my God,
could
send that to me.
Connected with who I am 10, who I am at 8, who I am at 5, who I am at 12. You know, playing classic hip hop keeps me connected with who I am at 16.
Yeah.
That makes me a complete person.
Absolutely.
Not just the person in this part of life. It's a complete. I got to be a complete person.
Yeah.
Because when I create from a complete space. I don't create from a space that I'm at right now. Yeah, I use that. That's the catalyst. But I got to create. You know whatever it is.
Right.
I got to create from that complete space and that
I get it.
person.
I get it.
So that's pretty much why I do it.
All right, we're gonna take a couple of questions right quick.
Questions.
We have
what is your question mark thing down there? That's where you can, and they can type it out.
Correct.
Also.
Correct. What is your favorite toy in your collection?
Favorite toy in my collection. Let me see if I can tilt this up. You see these robots at the top?
Oh my God.
These are Shogun Warriors.
I had one of those.
And in the middle, you see that green guy, that's Godzilla. Yeah. But Godzilla is like my spirit animal.
Wow.
He can't be killed.
Wow.
He's misunderstood.
Yeah, he is.
Kids love him. The adults hate him. And he will step in and wreck your whole shit if you give him a chance.
Wow.
But that's my favorite, the Godzilla and the Shogun Warriors up there.
Wow. Awesome. The Shogun Warrior was my man. The fact that I just saw that just now brings back so many memories.
And that's the thing. And that's like the space that I'm in California is not the final space that I want to be in as far as when it comes to my collection. That's why my collection is scattered all over the place.
Right.
But the one thing, like, it started with my studio in New Jersey, and you walk through it, it's like you're walking through a toy museum. But it's more than just walking through a toy museum. It's you have all these artists that come through, big artists, new artists, whatever, and they'll come through the studio, and it strips them of whatever artist ego they have. And they'll see the Muppets. They'll be like, oh man, Kermit the Frog was my dude.
Right.
And it turns it into a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
It turns it into us talking about our childhood. It turns it into us, talking about if you have, you might collect something, whatever, and then that may turn into a different type of song that was written that day.
Yeah.
A different type of beat that was made that day.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's like it disarms disarms people, and it turns them just into, it's like you could come in here as Chad Elliott, the executive, the producer, whatever, and then
you start doing one of these.
Yeah. And then you can turn into Chad Elliott, and then we like best friends in 6th grade.
Absolutely.
And we have a different rapport now.
Absolutely. 100%. I love that. I love it. Hold on, we got some more. Hold on. Let's see.
It's got me girls too, by the way.
Oh, well. But
I remember one time I had like this apartment in Harlem. I had all these toys, man. Girl was like, so your girlfriend let you buy all these toys? And I was like, I don't have them. Oh, word?
Hilarious. Okay, somebody asked, what's your favorite song that you produced?
The favorite song, I don't really have a specific favorite song, but it wasn't any like the bigger records. One of my favorites is a record by LL Cool J called 10 Million Stars. And it was a record I sampled. My favorite movie is Fame. And at the end of Fame is a record called Body Electric. And that's like the final performance of the kids in Fame. And I flipped the living daylights out of that record.
Right.
And it was a great experience for me as well, because that was my introduction into doing production for people,
right?
Outside of myself,
right?
And you know, it was a great experience in the studio. It was a great experience making the beat, and 10 Million Stars is probably one of my favorite records.
Now you worked with Biggie as well at one point, didn't you?
No, I was supposed. Well, no. Let me not say that I worked with him. I was supposed to, after he passed, they asked me to produce. You know how they be giving out the acapellas,
right.
And they asked me to produce some records with the acapellas, and they sent me this weird, like, what do you call it? NDA, non-disclosure agreement and all this. I was like, hey.
Right. It's too complicated.
I wanted to do it, but I didn't want to. It was like some weird stipulation. I worked with Puff, but I did not get to work with Big.
Are there any artists that we don't know about that you?
Yeah. There's an artist. Well, on the R&B side, I love the records that I do with Vivian Green. Like, I did 3 albums on her. One called Vivid, another called VG6, another one called Love Absolute. And I love all of those records. There's one record in particular called I'm Not Broken that I love that production on that. Right. And then there's another underground R&B artist named Algebra Blissett. And Algebra, I did a record on her called Can I Keep You? And I blacked out. I had a full-on orchestra and all this stuff, and it was like some 60s vibe. It sounded like a old Burt Bacharach, Dionne Warwick record.
Wow.
and it was just like, I love doing that. I love doing that record, and this records that may go under a lot of people's radar.
Right.
And those deep cut records that I did, I really like doing that.
Right. Somebody asked about a Janet Jackson. I don't know. Did you work with
Janet? Oh yeah, I did this. Well, yeah, I did this. Jermaine is a part of this.
Oh, okay.
It was supposed to be like 6 records on Janet.
Okay.
And it was weird. It was like,
this is when they were dating at this point. This is when Jermaine and Janet was dating, wasn't it?
Yeah, I assumed it was. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was.
But it was weird. It was like, I got this message that Janet wanted to meet me, and it was an address in New York, and it was like, Janet wants to meet you. Like, okay. So I go to this address, and it's Trump. It's Trump private residence. And because it's like the Trump Hotel, and then it's like these private residence.
Correct.
So I go into this thing, and it's like all things Trump. It was Trump water. It was Trump candy. It was like some it was weird as shit. So I'm sitting there, and it was like a conference room, or the Trump room, and I'm sitting there, and it was like it was just me and my manager, and then JD walks in, and then Janet walks in. It's my first time meeting Janet, and she's like, I'm a big fan. I'm like, oh, dope. And so JD, then he gets on a speakerphone, and it was Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and JD was like, the reason why you're here and wanted to meet with you, because I had like a beat CD. I was ready. I was like, I got beats.
Right.
And it was like, nah, it ain't about all that. We really like what you're doing production-wise, and we want you to do a quarter of her new album.
Wow.
I was like, oh, shit. I'm about to do Janet Jackson, about to do the whole album.
Right.
I was like, I was so hyped.
I'm sure.
After the meeting, I went to the Louis Vuitton store. I was like, oh, look at me.
Oh, man.
Louis Vuitton luggage set.
Hilarious.
Like an asshole. Like I'm looking at the set right now. That's so funny. And I go and I get the Louis Vuitton set, and I remember she picked like 6 different beats, and I sent the stems in, and I had to change pitches, and I was on the phone with Terry Lewis a lot of times, and we were talking about this, that, and the other, and I got paid for it. like I was getting these like Janet Jackson checks, not label checks, like Janet Jackson checks.
Oh, right, wow.
She's buying these beats. And
it's crazy.
It never came out.
Wow.
It never came out. I don't know I think the album that ended up coming out was the 20-year-old album, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But the work that I was sending, it just wasn't even on that vibe. But then a record did come out, and it had my name on it, but it was like a remix, and it was like a super stripped down version of one of the beats that I sent in. Okay. I don't even know how it goes. Because like when I heard it, I was like, this ain't even a whole beat. I don't want to hear this.
Wow.
And I just was like, I got paid for it, whatever.
Right.
But that was like the closest I came to doing.
So my question would be, what were they hearing? Like what were you working on at the time that brought you to their attention?
Well, I had a Tweet record out at the time, Tweet and Missy Elliott record.
That's
that
right.
Record was bringing, and the funny thing was, the label wasn't really behind that record, but that record brought in a lot of attention, a lot of unexpected attention. Because I started getting into films. I started doing scoring for films and stuff based off of music supervisors wanting that zone.
Right.
But it was like 3 records at the time. So on the R&B side, it was Tweet. On the pop side, it was a Will Smith record called Switch. And Switch was a #1 record in like 15 countries.
Right.
So from Switch, I was getting a lot of pop work.
Got it.
I started working with Christina Aguilera from there, and I started working with like the Pussycat Dolls and just all these different international pop artists based off of Will Smith record. And then I had a Lloyd Banks record on Fire, and that was giving me hip hop attention. Right. So
you was gonna do this whole interview and not talk about those records? That's what you was going to do?
No, I really
I feel like you wasn't gonna say nothing about all of that. That's what I feel.
And the reason why it's funny because it allowed me to achieve what I wanted to achieve as a producer, and not be the one-dimensional guy.
Right.
Because the funny thing was, all the work that I was getting from Switch or Christina Aguilera or whatever, they had no clue about Tweet, and they had no clue about Lloyd Banks.
Right.
And the Tweet people did care less about Lloyd Banks, and they could care less about Will Smith. I was able to be, I could be in a K-Slade Dipset session on Monday, and then I could be in Fantasia session on Tuesday, and, a Mary J. Blige or a Beyonce or whatever session on Wednesday. It's like, and I think...
I remember, the name was circulating. It was like Kwamé, this Kwamé, and I'm like, Kwamé, what could he did what? He's like, oh, he's producing now. I was like, oh, okay. And I think at the time I was at Sony too.
Keep it. I didn't want to be like boisterous with it. I just wanted to.
And you kind of recreated yourself because you had a whole other name and everything.
Now that was interesting. That other name thing. That other name, K1 Mill, was a joke. And it lasted literally for 2 records. It was a joke. It was like I was producing. It sounds weird as hell. I was producing a dance record for the lead singer Zelma Davis of CNC Music Factory.
Wow.
And it was like I was making this dance record, and I was doing like an introduction, and in the beginning of the record, I was joking. I was acting like a robot. I was like, I'm K1 Million. I have 1 million beats. I was acting stupid.
Right.
And the name, they started teasing me, and that was a nickname that the people that I was rocking with at the time was calling me K1 K1 Million. And Ron Lawrence, that I mentioned earlier, he was on fire. He did Hypnotized. He did what was the LL Phenomenon for LL. He did a lot of Bad Boy records, Money, Power, Respect.
Yeah.
So Ron was like, yo, man, I can really, I was still in my little gray area. And he was like, I can really help you out. I can really help you get some of these beats off. I was like, all right, I'm down. And he was like, you should stay with the name K1 Mill. And this is quote unquote, and me and Ron are still cool, so I'm just teasing him at this point. But he was like, yo, your name is dirt right now. Like, no one's going to buy a beat that says Kwamé. It's like, it's not going to happen.
He kept it real with you.
And I was like, I don't give a shit as long as they buy a beat.
Right.
So if you want to say K1 Million, it's fine. And how the name didn't stick was, and big shouts to LL Cool J and Eric Nix. And Eric Nix was LL's A&R at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were working on the LL album when I did that record I was telling you about, 10 Million Stars. And when Eric and L walked in, and because back then you had to like rent all your shit, redo the beat.
Yeah, so absolutely.
I'm redoing everything, and L was like, "Yo, Kwam, what are you doing here?" And then it turned to, "Yo, that dude K1 Mill is Kwamé."
Right.
And then it turned to like, why are you
K1
hiding behind these two, a letter and a number? Like, you're Kwamé.
Right.
You can prove yourself as a producer. Just say your damn name and keep it moving. And
yeah.
I went through my like artist formerly known as Slave period. And after the LO record, I did a Mary J. Blige record and maybe one other record, and then I was out. That was the end of K1 Mill, and it was just Kwamé from that point.
Right. And then you started focusing on the label and
the label, because I think the label, for me, the label is a creative outlet. Like, I don't have any problem producing people, but now we're dealing in a different space and time. And in this space and time, I can produce you, I can produce a record for you, but the guarantee of it becoming a single is scarce as shit.
Right.
And there is no, like, most artists don't really have these tangible albums. Most artists are putting out single after single after single after single, and finally they put an album out, and nobody really cares that they put the album out.
Yeah.
They just want the popping single. So, a lot of times a producer isn't necessarily guaranteed the single. They do their best job they could possibly do. Right. And you're in a talent show at that point. Whoever wins, wins, or whoever has the best politic gets the single.
Absolutely.
And so I can still play that guessing game, and that's fine. But I felt like I can lend my talents even more if I had some sort of imprint where I can put out records. I can run them up the flagpole on the radio. Right. I could run them through the Spotify, Apple Music title system, and reap the benefits of my work.
Yeah,
more than just waiting for my royalties to come in.
Absolutely, fully engulfed.
Yeah, and it allows me to transition also into a business person and really understand, because you got to understand there's a lot of artists, creative people that have no clue of the business.
Zero.
They have no clue. There's a lot of producers that can only make a beat. They can't mix a record. They can't engineer a session.
What's crazy too?
Tell somebody how to do vocals.
And the process has simplified so much.
Yeah.
And they still don't know.
Yeah. All they know is the beat they made or the song they just rapped or sang.
Right.
How much money they get for a show.
Right.
And where the party is.
Mm-hmm.
And
the local jeweler.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And that takes us into the last question of the night. What is your thought overall on where Black music is, where hip hop is as a whole?
I've said it before, and I will say it again.
Are you disappointed?
I'm highly disappointed. I'm not a hater though.
I didn't hear you,
Because
I'm
kids will be
disappointed.
kids, and kids will be rebellious, and kids will voice what they see.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is what they see is trash.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
are you disappointed that they're not being?
They could be voicing their creativity,
Mm-hmm.
but what they're seeing is a lot of what kids are seeing is an unfortunate reality. So again, I never blame the kids. I blame the reality that we live in.
But how much did the music that was created earlier have an effect on today?
I think I don't know, because, like, say for example, let's say when I first started, the music that had an effect on us was, say, James Brown, soul music, music that had nothing to do with hip hop.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
But it affected us.
Mm-hmm.
The things that around us affected us, the crack era, civil rights, things still happening civil rights wise, the possibility of getting money, and entrepreneurship, things like that affected us, and we wrote about it. And there were people that were speaking their truths from their point of view. NWA's truth, like even like you look at a early NWA record. NWA was on their gangster stuff, but they weren't necessarily promoting gangster culture. It was just like, like you have a record like Dope Man, and they were like, yeah, we rep where we are from, and if you come around here trying to sell that dope, you're gonna catch one.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or telling that story. Mm-hmm. Public Enemy was telling that story. Slick Rick was telling his stories. I was telling my stories. Rakim, everybody had different points of view. Mm-hmm. And then as time went on, and as corporations stepped in, those points of view became narrower and narrower. And now we are in the future. We're in 2023, and I feel like kids that want to rap feel like they have to put themselves in this narrow hallway in order to make it. The most disappointing to me is I don't want to say disappointing because that's not the word. The most interesting to me is the rise of our female rappers. Back in the days when I was young, there was a bunch, there was a different, and then it became like one or two. Yeah. And now the female rapper is at the forefront.
Dominant.
But I feel like they are in the most narrow hallway
of them all.
Agreed. They have to look like this in order to succeed. And I think that I'm almost certain that if you get to the core of a lot of our female rappers, they might not be the person that we're seeing on the screen. They might not be that. Right. But in order to succeed, they have to be that. And same thing with a lot of male rappers. They have to be this, and they have to speak about this, and everything seems to be a facade. It seems to be like alternate reality a lot of times, and it's about the antic more than about the music with a lot of people. So sometimes it's very disappointing to know that, and it seeps into the culture. Just say, for example, I did a post the other day about stores that don't exist anymore.
Oh, right? I love those. I love the posts.
You know what I'm saying? And I remember, like, say, for example, I posted Benetton and Esprit. And a lot of people were like, man, when I was in high school, I couldn't afford Benetton. I just had to go to merry-go-round or Strawberries, and I had to figure it out. Or you look at, say, what Michael Jackson was wearing, or what Janet Jackson was wearing, or whoever, Heavy D, whoever was on top. You never knew what designer they wore. Yeah. It was just culture. It was just dope. You wanted to emulate it.
Yeah.
You know, when I have polka dots on there, I say, these are the coochie polka dots.
No,
you know
absolutely.
what I'm saying?
And you would go find any polka dot you could. Yeah.
Yeah, like it was what it was. I may have mentioned a designer here and there on certain records, but it wasn't about that. Now it's like you see kids going to the prom in Rolls Royces, in Louboutin $1,500 shoes. These is kids. You know what I'm saying? And it's like that culture that I wanna appear. You see rappers, and it's starting to take a toll. You see what the toll is.
Yeah.
You know, you see rappers posting bags of money on their shoulders and all this kind of stuff, and it's become a part. That's become what we're buying into.
Yeah.
Instead of what artist is totally invigorating our imagination. What artists, and there are some that do that. I'm not going to say there are none. There are, but I'm saying as a whole. I'm generally speaking. So black music. To back to your question, to me, I've said this before. Black music has become the parody of black music.
Right.
Black music has become everything that people who didn't understand black music
used to joke about.
When people would joke about rap, when people would make parodies of rappers.
Wow, yeah.
Rappers have literally become that. And then there's so many rappers that have become the step and fetch it. The thing that we spent years trying to get away from.
Yeah.
We've become full circle, and we've become Sambo. We've become step and fetch it. We've become
wow.
A lot of times we've become that, and it's not to offend anybody, because the people that are becoming these things have no knowledge of history.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't know what step and fetch it is.
Yeah.
They don't know who Sambo is. They don't know.
Yeah.
They just know that they got to jump on that table and do the money dance to get the deal.
Yeah, I mean, think about when you signed your deal. Look, the faces that you saw in those buildings, right? Like you said, your auntie or your mother or your uncle. Like you saw, mature people in those buildings, helping to cultivate talent.
Yes.
At that time. If you go into the building today, you're not going to see that. You're not going to see anybody with gray hair. You're not going to see anybody who's had any time or experience in the game or in life and understands. They don't want that. They don't want that at all.
No, and it's funny because and I think that labels should have that young, hungry talent. Those executives in training should be there.
Of course.
But it should be like a pecking order. When I was at Atlantic, this is the wild thing. When I was at Atlantic at 16, 17, being a kid, I remember one time I was running through the hallway. Don't ask me why, I don't know why. I'm running through the hallway and I dipped into a room. And in the room was this old man eating breakfast. And I looked and I'm like, oh shit. Ahmet Ertegun, the creator of Atlantic Records, was still on deck. He didn't have to walk through the halls and be in the the A&R meeting.
Right.
But he was on deck.
Yeah, he was there in the building.
And if things didn't go right, he'd pick up the phone. A Clive Davis is like that as well.
Absolutely.
A Doug Morris is like that as well. And it's like, there's certain record people. But Ahmet Ertegun predates all of them.
Yeah.
This is the guy who signed Ray Charles. This is the guy who signed Aretha Franklin. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is the guy who signed Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give him way more reverence than anybody.
Yeah.
And until he left this earth, he was on deck.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so when I walk up in the label, sometimes I can walk up to a rap label and not see anybody that even looks like me.
That part.
There's not even the same hue as me.
Yeah.
And it's a full rap label.
It's crazy.
This is a label now?
It's crazy.
And I'm not saying it other races can't do hip hop. Yeah, we all do it. This is a worldwide thing. But the inclusion, you gotta have inclusion, and you gotta have perspective. You gotta have experience.
Yeah, gray hair. This is perspective. It's perspective.
And you know what? It's funny, little things make me think about like bigger things. And just the fact that like you rock your gray, you don't throw the Just for Men looking like G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
You
not the toy reference.
Yeah. And you carry your experience. My silver's coming in. And at one point, I was running from it, and I was like, "No, I don't like it." But I understand that the grays represent the length of the hallway, the length of the timeline, and it's nothing to run away from.
Not at all.
Because the issue is, you could be on the other side of it where you never get to survive to the point where you get these grades, and you never get to survive to the point where you're able to sell, or you're able to tell these stories.
Yeah.
And I think that Black music has done a disservice with representing that. Think about this, chat. Remember when we were kids, and we would watch a Grammy performance. And we're kids. We want to see Michael Jackson. We want to see Prince. Mm-hmm. That's what we want to see. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We knew we wasn't going to see no rappers up there.
Yeah.
Maybe Run DMC.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. That's like a super big maybe. But we knew we were going to. We hardly would see a New Edition. Maybe they might be in the audience and catch them sitting there. Right. But we wanted to see Michael and Prince.
Right.
But guess what else we saw? We saw Gladys Knight.
That's right.
We saw Diana Ross.
Yeah.
We saw Cab Calloway. We saw Nipsey Russell. Yeah. We saw Sammy
Davis Jr. Absolutely.
We saw everybody, and we respected it.
Yeah.
We saw what's his name? Emmanuel Lewis came out, but he may have come out with Cab Calloway.
Yeah.
And it was like, or we would watch Hollywood Squares, or we would watch The Love Boat, or we would watch Mr. T would be with I don't know, it could be Mr. T and Quincy Jones, it could be whoever. It could be Mr. T and Ella Fitzgerald. And we wouldn't think anything about it. We would watch the Blues Brothers, and the Blues Brothers would be cool, but it would be James Brown is in the movie, and Aretha Franklin's in the movie, and it was never like, it wasn't like we didn't look at them as too old, or when somebody like Gladys Knight, remember she put out the video for Love Overboard. Love Overboard was dope, but she had break dances in it, so it represented. Shaka Khan had Melly Mel. It was like, oh shit, Melly Mel in the Shaka Khan record. 100%. Shaka Khan was way above our pay grade.
100%.
But we recognized it.
Yeah.
The only thing we got close to that somewhat in this day and age is Mr. Big. Mr. Big may show up.
Yeah. Listen,
in the R. Kelly video.
Look, truth be told, and I'm gonna take it there because it's the Chad Elliott experience. The fact is that the white executives and owners of these companies have completely disregarded Black music for what it truly is. Right? It's almost like they are erasing, to me. And we've seen it before, erasing Black music from history, right? And all we're going to be left with is this. And that is a scary thought.
Let me tell you something. I'm not going to out this. I'm not going to out this person. But this is a real story from a real high-end executive that was of clear tone. So they said to me, I'm a sneaker collector. Whenever I go in a place, I'm trying to be as fresh as I could possibly be because I'm just like that. I've been like that since I was 12. So there's nothing to it. So they say to me, there's two things. Two things they say. One is, yo, man, every time I see you, you always got on these new sneakers, man. Always looking fresh. I guess it's because you've come from nothing. I'm like, wait, what? I came from the airport. What the fuck are you talking about? I've come from nothing, but that's the perception.
Yeah.
Same executive. We're sitting in a meeting, and they're like, I just signed this rapper from such and such city.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. Is he any good? Who gives a shit? He's a pimp. All right. He's a real pimp. When I met him, he had 2 girls on his arm and a fur coat and the biggest chain I've ever seen. And he's a gangster. And he hates 50 Cent. I'm like, what? Yeah, he doesn't like him. So all we need is for him to make a record talking about 50 Cent. And if one of them gets shot, we're all going to get paid. Exact word. The dude didn't even hate 50 Cent, by the way.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, you hear this shit?
Yeah.
And it's just me and this executive. It's like I said, as high as you can get one of these people.
Yeah.
And that was the hope and the wish.
Yeah.
Of the time.
Yeah. It's, I'm so anti-label right now. I'll give you a quick story, and then I'm gonna let you get out of here. I was working at Sony. My last year at Sony was 2007, right? Yeah. 10 years later, I am co-managing Remy Ma with Vincent Herbert.
Okay, big shout out to Vince. Vince looked out for me in a whole lot of ways, man.
Really big. That's my brother. Big shout out to him for sure. And she signed to, at this point, Columbia, right? Which is the same label I was at. I was at Columbia in 2007, right?
Yeah.
So I go up to the label. She has a meeting the day she's signing, and we're at the big table, and it has to be, I don't know, 25, 30 people at the table in the conference room, right?
The table signing.
The table signing. And I look at everybody at the table. I walk through and I'm saying hello to everybody because I know everybody, right? 10 years later, I know everybody. I'm like, wow, you're still here. I'm shocked. And I'm looking around and I'm trying to find a black person that was there 10 years ago.
Exactly.
Literally, there was one black person who was an assistant at one point, and in 10 years had no real growth.
Yeah.
In 10 years, every single fucking white person that worked there in 2007 was there in 2017 and had elevated in their career.
Exactly.
What else?
It's crazy, man. It's the one thing I always say about the music industry, we have never left 1958 as opposed when it comes to race and music. We have never left 1958. And I'm talking about even how the black artists act. It's more money, but they still out buying the car. They still out going to get the chain.
Same shit.
They still out doing a deal for the bag.
Athletes doing the same shit.
Yeah, and then 10 years later, crying about how they got jerked.
Yeah.
And how this, that, and the other. And it's like, yo.
Yeah.
So it's like, this you allowing how in 2021, 2022, 2023, you letting the same thing that happened to Little Richard happen to you.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
It's
not good. It's not good, Kwamé. And these executives these new executives that are in these positions have to do a little more. It's very disappointing to see how, again, black artists specifically are being treated. And even the A&Rs that are in these positions, they're so scared to lose these positions that they're not willing to step up and say, yo, hold up. Enough is enough. Even these attorneys, it just doesn't make sense. The deals are not changing enough. In fact, they're more aggressive. The deals today are way more aggressive. These 360 deals, these are aggressive deals.
They're back to the 1958 deals. They're the same deals. And this is the thing that boggles my mind. As a collective, we're probably, as a collective of Black creatives, we're probably the richest we've ever been.
Yeah.
But yet we choose to continue to take jobs.
Yeah.
I don't care what label you say you got. If you're under blah, 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 you took a job.
You took a job. 100%.
And it's like, if it's Black music and it's Black radio and it's, Black artists or Black centric things.
Yeah.
At what point do
Black
we stop looking for the handout?
Yeah, we don't need it. We don't need it, man. I talk about this all the time, Kwamé. We don't need it. Like, we got everything we need. There's 40 million Black people. 40 million Black people in this country. Like, we don't need any handouts. We don't. And again, we're gonna go down a rabbit hole. So let's be careful where we go with this, because you and I.
But what I want to say to you, I definitely want to say something to you, Chad, while you're here.
Yes.
I want to say that you have also been an example that I've looked up to over the years. Like, just knowing you, I looked at you for your growth. So, for example, I could say, first time seeing you, I could be watching, I don't know, it could be the Crush Groove thing, it could be dancing with Jermaine, but it's still a growth. It's from one thing that grew into another thing, grew into a producer, writer, grew into an executive, grew into a manager, and you were always one of those totems for me.
Wow.
To say that, I respect growth like that, because you're not being pigeonholed to one thing. You could easily be just a random guy going, I was in Crush Groove. Or you could easily say, I used to be a dancer at Fresh Fest. And, work somewhere else. And that's just like your little thing that you wanted to talk about when you was, I don't know, how old was you? 13?
13, yes.
Yeah, so it's like, and I remember it was funny because Herbie Lovebug's younger brother, Steve. I believe knew you. I know he knew Jermaine, but during that Fresh Fest time.
Yeah.
And I remember Steve was like, I was on the phone with Jermaine and Chad. They danced for Houdini. I was like, oh, they was on the Fresh Fest, man. Man, that's probably the greatest, because they're like our age, man. Like, Steve, man, we got to get out there, man. If Chad and Jermaine can do it, we can do it. And you know what I'm saying? Right. And that's just having conversations in Steve's kitchen at 13 years old, and seeing that progression and being able to progress myself. It's because of totems like you that I was able to do it, because I believe in, I don't know, I'm pretty sure that there's some electric term for it, but I believe if you could see it, if you can be in the same room, if you could be able to lay your hands on, or just be in the environment of things and places and people and events that you want to be, it's meant for it to happen to you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So being in your orbit, there was one time I was trying to buy your house, man.
That's right.
I love that house. Where was that?
Wow, I was in Rockland County.
Yeah, man, I wanted to be in that house.
Wow, that's right.
I remember you calling me, like, I sold the house. I was like, damn you.
That's right, Kwamé. I forgot all about that. I
wanted to buy that crib so bad. It had a studio in it.
The studio.
Like, I'm moving down south, and I sold the house. I was like, damn it, Chad. But that was like, your crib was like, because at the time I was living in an apartment, and I was like, it wasn't like, I wasn't clout chasing, I wasn't trying to mimic, but it was, you were a example of what growth and success look like.
Wow.
And I was in the process of regrowth and re-success and used you as one of the prime examples. So I just wanted to let you know that. Give me your flowers. Here you go.
I'm gonna take it. Thank you, Kwamé.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I appreciate that. I really do appreciate it. Yo, listen, this has been more than fascinating. Seriously.
Well, I'm glad
like, you said something to me. Wait, you text me. Hold on. I'm gonna ask you this. Hold on. You said to me, no, I asked you. I said, is there anything you want to focus on or stay away from? And you said, nah, rock out. I just don't like generic questions, but I trust how you flow with it. How did we flow?
Perfectly.
It was a good conversation. It felt like a good conversation.
Yeah.
It felt like something we would talk about if we were sitting on the couch.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yo, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I have appreciated you for a very long time. I'm thankful that, the universe gave you to us and to the music business.
Thank you.
I think that you are a pillar, a beacon. I think, unfortunately, the powers that be in the industry allowed, and similar to what's happening now, something else, I believe when the tunneling began, right? Same tunnel that you're talking about, I think began around that time. And unfortunately, creators like yourself, but I could equate, to be honest with you and someone like Kendrick Lamar.
Okay.
Seriously, like I could see Kendrick understanding your genius, right? And turning that into what he is doing, right?
Yeah.
And there are some artists that I believe definitely have paid attention to what you have done.
Yeah, I super relate to Kendrick.
Yep. Yeah. So I again grateful for you, because I think that artists like him and others definitely have paid attention to what you were doing, the uniqueness to it, and it deserves tremendous amount of flowers. And I think that you are super underrated, although I know you are loved. But again, I don't believe people really appreciated what you were doing. And again, you were so beyond your own self that maybe you didn't even get it completely. Right, completely. Because maybe if you did, you could have shaped it and done it differently at some point. But again, who knows? I'm glad that you're here now. I'm glad that we get to enjoy you today on IG, Toy Tuesdays. I want to see you back DJing. I'm gonna do everything I can do in my power to make sure I'm at an event that you're DJing. Okay, that's gonna happen. Okay, it might be my birthday party. I don't know, but mine is the 15th.
All right.
Yeah, you're in Aries though.
What?
Of March. I'm a Pisces.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. But you're in Aries though.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay. I think you share a birthday with Eddie F. I think Eddie is.
I know. Salt and I share a birthday. Me, Salt. Who else? Somebody else. Lady Gaga. Me, Salt, Lady Gaga. Somebody else.
I think Eddie F.
I know Mariah's the next day. Eddie might be either my birthday or the day before. I know he's close to it.
Yeah, he's definitely in that element.
Yeah.
But again, man, look, we did 3 hours though.
Wow, I didn't even realize that.
The bladder must be like in your throat right now. Did you put on a diaper real quick? Like,
no, it's like one of those, I don't know. Out of sight, out of mind. You don't think about it.
Yeah,
in the back of my mind, it's like, you got to pee. Right?
Yeah, you got to pee. You ain't got one of them toy toilets next to you.
No.
The little one that opens up.
I'm on my astronaut shit. You know how astronauts they gotta hold it until they get Don't piss yourself until there's no weight.
Oh Lord. Yeah, I can't even imagine that. Again, thank you. You have given us more than I think we expected. It was an awesome interview. I enjoyed the time. I can't wait to see you in person so I can give you a big embrace and
Thanks, man.
Tell you face to face how much I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna say
All right.
goodbye to the people after you go and let them go. But thank you again. And whenever you want to come through, you want to chop it up, you want to just chime in, please, man. We want to see you back here at the experience.
Yeah, definitely,
man.
definitely. Anytime, man. Anytime you need me over here, I'm here. And I probably will the next interview I'm able to catch. I'll be in here cracking jokes.
That's what please come in the comments because it'd be funny, man. It'd be a lot of D-Nice. They all got jokes, man. They be in here just roasting me because I be in here cooking and I be doing things I ain't supposed to be doing, and they be getting on me, and it's all good. But also, I'd like for you to check out what we're doing with our health and wealth challenge. We're changing people's lives over here, man.
Yeah,
literally, people are getting off medicine, losing weight. A lot of amazing things are going on.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in what you put in is what you put out. So yeah, I'm not over here eating lollipops and shit.
Good. Excellent. That's what's up. Again, yo. My brother, I appreciate you. Love you, man.
Peace, brother.
All right. Later. All right. Wow. Man, oh man, oh man. Whew, I can't see the comments no more, y'all. I'm sorry. What an amazing evening. Shout out to my man Kwamé. He did his thing. He really did. He's an amazing dude. I see why we call him the boy genius.